Chapter 850 Ancient Mineshaft sends troops out. Chapter 850 Ancient Mineshaft sends troops out. Ling Han and Helian Tianyun ran. As long as they survived, there'd be a time in the future when they fought back, or else all would be for naught. They might not look old right now, but they'd both lived one life already. Would they still let emotions sway their decisions? That would be stupid. You want to run? Ao Jian immediately began his pursuit. Only he was qualified to chase, because the other 7 the imperial family would be suppressed by Helian Tianyun's dragon's might, chasing for nothing. He was a genius of Immortal Realm's dragon race, with the blood of true dragon flowing in his veins, and currently already had shattering void 19 stars of battle prowess, being only 1 star away from the extreme battle prowess. Thus, he was extremely conceited. Stop. Ao Jian constantly used spells and controlled the stream to ram it towards Ling Han and Helian Tianyun. He was a descendant of a true dragon, and could inherently control water. These were waves drawn by a shattering void tier elite. Ling Han and Helian Tianyun only had the cultivation of the heaven tier, so how could they block them? Peng, 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 they were slapped by the waves, shocked and numb all over. Fortunately, one of them had a physique of 10th tier rare metal, while the other was only slightly inferior, not that far off, or else the waves alone could shatter them into pieces. However, Ao Jian seized the chance to catch up with them. T, now that's a great loss. Ling Han finally unleashed the instant teleportation talisman. This time, he wasn't just doing it for show, but truly planning on using it. Otherwise, being trapped and unable to escape from this sea area, he would still have to use the instant teleportation talisman in the end. Instant teleportation talisman? Catching his gaze, Ao Jian sped up in a rush, trying to stop them from leaving. See you next time, little brat. At that time, this lord will definitely kill you, Helian Tianyun said fiercely. A dignified alternative dragon like him was hunted down and had to flee helter-skelter. Such a thing couldn't be stomached. Sure, Ao Jian extended his hand and thrust a long spear, but when the spear point landed, only a vacuum layer was created. Ling Han and Helian Tianyun already disappeared without a trace. Damn it. His gaze shone with a chilling glare, appearing very regretful. Honestly, he wouldn't chase them onto land, because he'd already heard that there was an extremely powerful human, who was also a born-killing formation, there, and on top of power of the nation's blessing, his battle prowess broke through 20 star. He was afraid he'd die there. No way, he was a dignified true dragon's descendant with boundless prospects, and couldn't possibly endanger himself in this lowly, small world. The only purpose he had here was to ensure smooth creation of the realm pill. Damn it. How could they have an instant teleportation talisman, something extremely rare even in the divine realm? Xiao, with a flash, Ling Han and Helian Tianyun already appeared at sea level. Where's this? Ling Han gazed into the distance. Helian Tianyun sniffed, and then said, as far as this lord can tell, it should be the West Sea. Ling Han couldn't help but reveal a strange expression, and said, you can smell that out? No *T, the waters of the 4 seas are all different, how can this lord not smell it? Helian Tianyun snorted, appearing very proud, and then said strangely, brat, how come you have an instant teleportation talisman? Although this thing's well known, even this lord has never obtained it before. Ling Han came to a realization, connecting it with that big news that Azura Demon Emperor had revealed. If the vast lands originally stayed in the immortal realm before, then it wasn't unacceptable that some divine-level things appeared here. They could have been dug from a grave by Ma Duobao. This fatty was really a pretty good person to have given him such a precious thing. Someone gifted it to me, Ling Han said without thought. Gifting even such a precious thing? Helian Tianyun was shocked. Hurry, 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 who's that person? Introduce him to this lord. This lord doesn't mind becoming good friends with him. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh, and said, you and him really are somewhat alike in some ways. He told Helian Tianyun about Ma Duobao while returning to land. Since they were in the West Sea, they would obviously first arrive at the West region, then turn towards the North region to return to the imperial capital. With their pace on foot, they finally left the ocean area after 7 days, stepping on land. The people in the Black Tower also knew the course of the matter. Except for Hu Niu running out, the other people still stayed inside to accommodate fast pace of the journey. However, Ling Han would sometimes take his son out and hold him, nourishing the bond between father and son. The West region was now also Great Ling Empire's territory, with the totem's duplicate silhouette, and Ling Han only had to connect to it to be able to find out about the movements of the Great Ling Empire. Originally, he just randomly thought of it and thus connected to the totem, but after receiving some news, he immediately revealed a shocked expression. The things buried underneath the former Fire Country's mineshaft finally came out. Through the totem silhouette, he saw blurry shadows of humanoid creatures enveloped in black current that were extremely powerful, besieging towns and strongholds in their path. With every city they conquered, they refined everyone in the city into the walking dead, which were also bound by black current, becoming their subordinates, though their strength was average. Fortunately, refining one city took a considerable amount of time. They still hadn't completely seized the desolate north, so it wouldn't be any time soon that they'd pass through the fallen moon gorge and enter North Region's large territory. "What's the matter?" Helian Tianyun asked casually. Once Ling Han spoke of the situation, Helian Tianyun also frowned. It just had to be at this time. If the two of them were given time, they'd be the strongest elites with battle prowess of shattering void tier 20 stars in the future, but the heavens seemed to deliberately make things difficult for them, not even giving them 1 year, and setting up difficult problems for them one after another. Ling Han immediately made a decision to let the rock spirit make a trip to Purple Moon Emperor's court to get reinforcements while he immediately charged back. Whether it was out of responsibility or for himself, he had to stop those people from the ancient mineshaft. They buried and remade themselves with the yin qi in the ground, turning from a living person to one of the underworld, even trying to turn this small world into part of the underworld. When the time came to split open the skies, they'd be ascending into the underworld. It definitely couldn't happen. With power of the nation's blessing, Ling Han's power instantly skyrocketed to shattering void tier 9 stars. Although the desolate north was small, after falling into enemy hands, it still affected the power of the nation, or else he should boast the power of shattering void tier 10 stars now. The thunderclap 9th heaven and fairy demon steps were activated by him at the same time, so his speed was swift as he was flying rapidly in the direction of the fallen moon gorge. On the other side, he issued orders through the totem, having all elites gather at the fallen moon gorge to fight the people of the underworld. After 3 days, he arrived at the fallen moon gorge. At this time, the Rain Emperor and Mu Rongqing also arrived with large amounts of experts, and stopped the large army outside the gorge. Yi Shuang was also requested to come, and was now sitting leisurely on the side, out of tune with everyone else. "Your Majesty." Seeing Ling Han, everyone knelt down to pay their respects. Ling Han waved his hand, having everyone stand up, and then said, "Big brother, how's the situation?" The desolate north already fell into enemy hands, and the totem obviously also lost its use as his eyes and ears. He no longer knew what happened inside. "According to what I saw the few times I scouted the gorge, the enemy already rallied their forces again, and will come out the gorge in a few days," the Rain Emperor said with a frown. He'd seen the destruction those things had caused, and as Rain Country's former ruler, he obviously utterly detested it. "Report." A scout suddenly charged in, knelt down, and said, "There is movement within the gorge." Chapter 851, Demon Servants. Chapter 851, Demon Servants. They came so quickly. Hong, long, chaotic heavy footsteps sounded within the gorge. Judging from this point alone, it was a motley crew. Ling Han and the others immediately came out of their tents, and looked towards the gorge. Hundreds of humanoid beings could be seen at the forefront, but their entire bodies was enveloped in a black current, and their countenance couldn't be seen at all. Even their height and sex were indistinguishable. Behind them was a dense crowd of people, who clearly used to be normal people, but were now bound by black demonic qi, making their appearance terrifying. They were emitting an intense atmosphere of bloodlust. They were converted into the underworld's low-level demon servants. Yi Shuang started to talk. Somewhat similar to corpse soldiers, unaware of pain, and unafraid of death, but their physiques are far inferior. However, they still maintain considerable intelligence, and aren't necessarily easier to kill compared to corpse soldiers of the same level. Then what about those people in front? Ling Han asked. Yi Shuang nodded, and said, they can be counted as high-level demon servants. Shattering Void Tier 1s are only high-level demon servants. Ling Han was shocked. Yi Shuang rolled her eyes at him, and said, the divine beings are divided into 5 levels, and every large level is subdivided into 4 small levels. Even small levels are almost insurmountable, equivalent to 20 levels. These guys haven't even advanced to the divine level. Could they even be called demon generals or demon kings? That made sense. Judging from the level of the vast lands, these high-level demon servants were already peak-stage existences, but in the underworld, they weren't even close to the edge of being an expert. Resisting against the underworld is every divine being's responsibility, and this lady is no exception. Yi Shuang's expression was stern. Today, this lady will fight alongside you. These demon servants must be eliminated. Ha 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 ha, I didn't come late, did I? With a laughter, a lonely man with a lanky figure descended from the sky, holding a wine gourd in hand, stubble all over his face. He looked extremely old. Big brother. Ling Han was pleasantly surprised, and immediately went to greet him. It was Feng Po Yun. They hadn't seen each other for a few years, and Feng Po Yun had already advanced from shattering Void Tier 3rd layer to the 5th layer. Such an improvement was truly great. Presumably, it should be because he cultivated out sword heart illumination, which could cut the demons within his heart, so his improvement in tier became relatively easier. This was definitely a helping hand. Although Feng Po Yun hadn't reached shattering Void Tier's 9th layer, sword heart illumination should have extremely great destructive power towards these demons. Younger brother, long time no see. Your cultivation's improvement speed truly astonishes me. Feng Po Yun laughed loudly. At the time they met, Ling Han was only at the flower blossom tier, and now, he was about to cross into the shattering void tier. Big brother, you can come under my empire temporarily, and I'll bestow you with the title of a king, allowing you to utilize the power of the nation to improve battle prowess, Ling Han said with a smile. Okay. Feng Po Yun agreed with a smile. Originally, with his tier and status, he obviously wouldn't deign join under someone as some king, but to resist against the underworld's invasion now, he was obviously able to distinguish which was the more important between the great cause and his reputation. Besides, it wasn't anything bad to work for his younger brother. Ling Han actuated the totem and said, this emperor now bestows big brother Feng Po Yun with the title of this court's Feng Yun king, and hereby proclaims it to the nation. Hong, the totem instantly operated, transmitting this appointment to every corner of Great Ling Empire immediately. Above the imperial city, a golden name was added onto the Black Tower totem's body. Feng Yun King, Feng Po Yun. This represented Great Ling Empire's official conferment. He could accept the mental power of millions of subjects through the totem and operate the power of the nation. Now, Great Ling Empire had a total of 3 kings: the Rain Emperor, Mu Rongqing, and Feng Poyan, who was just conferred his title. Feng Poyan immediately operated the power of the nation, and couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. He said, my power actually increased to the level of shattering Void Tier 11 stars. Unfortunately, my physique isn't tough enough, or else it could still increase a little bit more. Under the blessing of the power of the nation, his power increased by 4 stars, but the increase of his actual battle prowess should be more than that. Brat, give this lady the title of a king, Yi Shuang said. Although she was a divine being, suppressed by the realm's power, and her tier dropped straight to the shattering void tier's 9th layer, it didn't mean that her power couldn't reach shattering void tier 20 stars. Thus, the power of the nation would also have an addition effect on her. Ling Han nodded, and conferred Yi Shuang the title Wu Shuang King through the totem. This lady's battle prowess only increased by 3 stars. Yi Shuang couldn't help but be gloomy. It couldn't be helped. The stronger one's strength, the weaker the power of the nation's blessing. Unless she was the country's master, who could receive infinite power blessing so long as the body could withstand it and the mental power of the subjects was strong enough. However, it's still enough to suppress that alluring woman. The alluring woman obviously meant the Lunar King, whom she constantly had in mind. It was obvious just how great of a shock Lunar King's charm brought her at the time. Human, hurry up and surrender. This king can grant you guys eternal life. In the gorge on the opposite side, those high-level demon servants already walked out. 100 shattering void tier elites stood there, emitting terrifying presence, even seeming to shake down the firmament. A mere demon servant dares to boast shamelessly. Ling Han sneered. Outrageous, how dare you speak to this king in this way? A high-level demon servant whose figure was the tallest shouted, raising his hand and spreading out a silver ray of light, which immediately enlarged infinitely, turning into a great silver spider the size of a mountain. This great spider moved its 8 legs that were like heavenly axes, and looked down at all living creatures with a contemptuous look. Reaching the tier it was at, changing its own body was obviously a piece of cake. Kill. That high-level demon servant that claimed itself to be the king pointed at Ling Han. The great silver spider immediately sprung with its 8 feet, and charged towards Ling Han. Haha, I'll be your opponent. Feng Po Yun laughed loudly, brandishing his sword and charging out. The fact that his tier could increase so fast also had to do with this great spider, which was continuously impelling him to get stronger. Now, with the blessing of the power of the nation, Feng Po Yun was obviously going to vigorously fight a great battle. Peng. The 2 elites exchanged blows, and instantly fought from the ground to the sky. Their fight was extremely intense. Ling Han took a glance, and discovered that Feng Po Yun's current battle prowess wasn't inferior to the great silver spider's, instantly feeling relieved. He said indifferently, I am Great Ling Empire's Emperor Ling Han. Who are you people? State your names. The king of demon servants sneered. A mere heaven-tier warrior dares to claim kingship, what a gargantuan joke. This king already abandoned his previous name. You people can call this king Demon King San Mi. Yi Shuang couldn't help but burst into laughter, and said, a mere demon servant dares to claim to be a demon king? How shameless do you have to be? Come, fight this lady 300 rounds and see if this lady won't tear apart your thick face. Are you seeking your own death? The king of demon servants sneered, reaching out its hand to snatch Yi Shuang. This lady isn't wanton, don't touch her with your dirty hand. Yi Shuang swatted with her hand, and the hand of the king of demon servants was instantly sent flying. The king of demon servants smiled grimly, waved its large hand bound by demonic chi, and said, kill them all. The large army instantly charged towards Great Ling Empire's troops. Chapter 852 Reinforcements. Chapter 852 Reinforcements. Kill. Ling Han also brandished the Revere Life Sword. Shattering Void Tier 10 stars of power was enough to completely activate this sword, and he also threw out the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation. Every bit of Shattering Void Tier power was precious right now. The great battle immediately ensued. At first contact, Great Ling Empire was at a disadvantage, an absolute disadvantage. On the demon servant side, there were too many Shattering Void Tier elites, and the king of demon servants even reached Shattering Void Tier 19 stars of battle prowess, a notch stronger than Yi Shuang, instantly making her unable to cope with him. Yi Shuang bawled in anger. If it were in the immortal realm, she could kill this kind of trash 10,000 times with a breath, but she was actually in a disadvantageous position here, suppressed by the realm power. If she unleashed a full-strength attack, she would be able to annihilate the king of demon servants, but she would be ejected out of the vast lands, and the foreign realm was sealed off by a formation which was enough to kill her. Perish together? She obviously wasn't willing to. She revealed all her strength, trying hard to buy time. Now, all that could be done was to wait for Purple Moon Emperor Court's reinforcements. Ling Han was hard-pressed even with power of the nation's blessing, only his battle prowess advanced to Shattering Void Tier, while the others at most charged up to the Deity Transformation and Heaven Tier. Thus, the Shattering Void Tier battle prowess he had on his side were only Feng Po Yun, Yi Shuang, and him. Counting the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation, it would barely be 4. The other party had over 100 Shattering Void Tier elites, and more importantly, every one of them had power of Shattering Void Tier's 9th layer, and their battle prowess easily reached 10 stars. The stronger ones even reached 15 stars. How could this be blocked? The instant they came into close combat, the Great Ling Empire suffered heavy casualties. However, they had to fight. If these demon servants entered the north region, The North region would become a hellish land, then the same with 3 other regions, and lastly Middle State. Even the Sea region wouldn't be able to escape from such fate. So, they had to be stopped here. As long as Ma Duo Bao arrived in time, his 20 stars battle prowess would be sufficient to make a clean sweep of the enemy. Ling Han fought desperately, using the thunderclap 9th heaven and the demon fairy steps, saving people everywhere. Relying on his formidable physique and nature-defying recovery power, he attracted the joint attacks of large amounts of elites. The other party rather feared him. It couldn't be helped. Ling Han's current battle prowess was shattering void tier 12 stars, even 13 stars, and on top of his physique and recovery power, he was enough to pose a serious threat to large amounts of shattering void tier demon servants. Moreover, he was also Great Ling Empire's emperor. After killing him, everyone would no longer receive power of the nation's blessing, so he obviously became the highest priority target. This suited Ling Han's intention. Fighting several hundred shattering void tier elites fiercely, he finally controlled the injuries and deaths of Great Ling Empire's troops. However, Ling Han was in a miserable condition. The opponents were demon servants, and the arts they cultivated were inharmonious with this realm, filled with corruption and evil. The striking power of their origin power wasn't very strong, but the destructive power went beyond it, causing immense damage to Ling Han's physique. Ling Han's physique was equal to rare metal, but their origin power was like acid, which could slowly refine him. Fortunately, Ling Han's recovery power was amazing. Still, under the repeated bombardment of hundreds of shattering void tier enemies, his arms and legs were slowly corroded, and blood cavities appeared all over his body. After enduring for half a day, Ling Han was forced to use indestructible true fluid, instantly fully recovering his body. However, soon, bloody cavities reappeared on his body, looking so horrible that one could hardly bear to look at him. "Nyo will help you." Nyo stepped into the vast sky and circled around the demon servants, lessening Ling Han's pressure. However, her power hadn't advanced to the shattering void tier, and her influence was severely limited, making her bawl in anxiousness. The fierce battle carried on, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Ling Han was still holding out, but he only had 1 drop of indestructible true fluid left. Even indestructible true fluid had a resistance factor, and after continuous use in a short period of time, 1 drop's effects were obviously inferior to the previous. When the last drop of indestructible true fluid was used, what would he do? Sorry, we came late." With a loud halloo, 8 men and women flew over from afar. Every one of them emitted an imposing presence that could shake down the skies. The 8 kings arrived. Arriving late is always better than not arriving. Ling Han squeezed out a smile. "Everyone, join the battle immediately." "All right." The 8 kings all attacked. They each had shattering void tier 15 stars of battle prowess, and with their help, Ling Han's pressure was instantly greatly reduced. Peng, 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 the rock spirit also ran over from afar. Its speed was no match for the 8 kings, truly making it run for its life. "Gah, gah, gah, come all at once, just so that all of you can be killed." The king of demon servants sneered. "You dare to divert your attention when fighting this lady?" Yi Shuang spread open her 3,000-meter wings and slashed as if using 2 heavenly axes towards the king of demon servants. "Mate, you think you can fight this king for this long because you're strong enough," the king of demon servants said in disdain. "Come, form the formation. This king drink his fill of these humans' blood today." 100 shattering void tier elites immediately dispersed, and formed some sort of formation. Instantly, their bodies emitted demonic chi one after another, surging into the body of the king of demon servants. Hong, the aura of the king of demon servants instantly grew explosively. Even Yi Shuang's face paled, and she said seriously, "Not good, this power is just about 20 stars. Shattering void tier's limit was 20 stars, but strictly speaking, it was power that couldn't surpass 20 stars. With the addition of martial arts, mystic arts, and the like, battle prowess could surpass it. For example, Ma Duo Bao without power of the nation's blessing had shattering void tier 20 stars of battle prowess, and on top of power of the nation, shattering void tier 20 stars was easy for him to achieve. The king of demon servants operated some sort of formation, which extracted the powers of the other demon servants and added it onto his own body, giving him an instantaneous leap in power. If power could approach close to 20 stars, then battle prowess surpassing 20 stars wouldn't be difficult. How was this going to be dealt with now? "Where's Brother Ma?" Linghan asked. Thousand Corpse Sect's 18-eyed Corpse King appeared and revolted. His Majesty personally went to suppress it, the Lunar King said. Everyone's expressions were gloomy. Could these demon servants have discussed it in advance with the Thousand Corpse Sect? It was very possible because Thousand Corpse Sect was established by an elite of the underworld that went into the immortal realm. "Ha ha ha, all of you will die." The king of demon servants attacked, swatting its palm at everyone. Demonic chi pervaded, and even eclipsed the world. "Where's the eye of heavenly Tao? Hurry up and punish these filth." The rabbit jumped in anxiousness. Yi Shuang shook her head, and said, "These demon servants were originally from the vast lands, but only cultivated demonic arts, transforming their bodies into those of the underworld, so the eye of heavenly Tao won't expel them. Moreover, the tear of the king of demon servants didn't break through to the divine level, and so he also won't be expelled by the eye of heavenly Tao." The Lunar King struck with her palm, while shouting at Yi Shuang, "Can't you say something that makes people happy? Then everyone can't be birthed on the same year, same month, and same day, but can die on the same year, same month, and same day. Does that count as something that makes people happy?" Yi Shuang said with a smile, and also attacked with her palm, joining hands with the 8 kings and Ling Han to resist the king of demon servants' overwhelming attack. Hong! The attack swatted down, and Ling Han, Yi Shuang, and the 8 kings were all sent flying, every one of them hacking out loads of blood. Not dying immediately was truly good luck. However, they couldn't even block a single move of the king of demon servants. Together, was there still hope? Chapter 853, The Ship Came Again. Chapter 853, The Ship Came Again. Unless Ma Duo Bao came personally, they wouldn't be able to rival the king of demon servants, let alone annihilate it. However, Ma Duo Bao was restrained by the Thousand Corpse Sect. Water from afar quenched not fire. He couldn't possibly help them. What were they to do? Linghan frowned. He could only store everyone into the Black Tower. They definitely couldn't all die here. As long as they didn't die, then everything was possible. Besides, once Ma Duo Bao realized what was going on, he would be able to quickly lend a helping hand. It could only be so. "Everyone, I have a spatial divine tool that can save our lives. Don't resist my divine senses envelopment later, I'll bring everyone inside." Ling Han sent a divine sense transmission to the 8 kings and Yi Shuang. Spatial divine tool. Yi Shuang's beautiful eyes immediately widened. This thing was extremely precious. Even in the divine realm only the top almighties could refine it. She'd never thought Ling Han would possess one. No wonder she smelled the presence of an amazing treasure on him. The 8 kings all nodded. The situation developing to this stage was not something they could control anymore, and only Ma Duo Bao could turn the tides for them. Ling Han had a formidable physique and was the first to stand up, but he suffered heavy injuries in the battle previously, and was currently riddled with scars, appearing too ghastly to look at. Ling Han, who Nyo leapt over. The little girl was also injured quite terribly, blood dripping from her forehead, giving off a distressingly beautiful look. Damn it! Ling Han regretted it on the inside. Previously, although he escaped from the sea race, he didn't take it to mind, since being able to escape unscathed from a true dragon in the shattering void tier wasn't something to be ashamed of. But now, he was utterly defeated, and with the invasion of demon servants, countless of living beings would be murdered in cold blood. As a king, how could he possibly feel well? The power of the nation was a double-edged sword, and now it was biting back. "Hehe, leave your lives here for this king." The king of demon servants laughed loudly, and struck with his palm again. Battle prowess surpassing shattering void tier 20 stars shook heaven and earth, even forcibly tearing apart space. Hong! At this moment, a ship's bow suddenly rammed out of a spatial fissure. *T, again? Previously, Ma Duo Bao had attacked the 5 sects, and shattering void 20 stars of battle prowess burst forth, tearing apart space immediately, resulting in a divine ship crashing out. It was unknown how long it sailed in the void, but there were still dead souls that hadn't dispersed, and their strength was nature-defyingly powerful. Now, was it going to happen again? The ship's bow rammed out, revealing a 900-meter ship. However, this ship was different from the previous one. There obviously wasn't any breach on it, its flag was distinct, and there were even female soldiers that kept watch at the ship's bow. Ling Han could see clearly that a strange being was drawn on the flag of fish swimming in the sea, suddenly breaking out of the water and turning into a rock, roaming between heaven and earth. It was clearly only a painting, yet an animated image was produced in his mind, truly mystical. The ship lay between the king of demon servants and Ling Han, the 8 kings, and the others. "Who is it, daring to stop this king?" the king of demon servants immediately shouted. His current battle prowess was at the height of 20 stars, which was invincible in this realm, making his confidence blow through the roof. Ling Han and the 8 kings' expressions were strange. They'd seen the impressiveness of another divine ship, and the girl on it even lashed away the eye of heavenly Tao. "You're asking for trouble." No one on the ship paid attention to him. An old woman in cyan clothes walked to the bow, and glanced down, her gaze stopping on Hunyo, instantly revealing a pleasantly surprised look. "Shio, shio, shio." More than 10 people immediately leapt off the ship. All were women, but none were dressed as soldiers. They all wore battle suits of generals, appearing to have considerable status. "It's an honor to see the milady one." These girls all bowed down, saluting towards Hunyo. The old woman in cyan clothing was an exception. She revealed a smile, and said, "Little girl, this old one finally found you." "You people." The king of demon servants was furious. There were people in this world that dared to ignore him? He sneered, and swung his hand at these girls. When they turned into a pool of blood, they would regret their current attitude, right? "Young lady, who hurt you?" all the girls asked Hunyo, every one of them revealing furious expressions. Although Hunyo was unclear as to why, she was quite clever and mischievous, immediately pointing at the king of demon servants and those demon servants. She said, "It's him, 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 and him, 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 and him." All the girls stood up and turned around, looking towards the king of demon servants. This was extremely strange. The king of demon servants already attacked, but with the speed of shattering void tier 20 stars battle prowess, how come the attack hadn't hit yet? It was as if time was frozen. A female general attacked and pressed towards the king of demon servants. Hong, heaven, and earth began lamenting, and with a pa, the king of demon servants was instantly shocked into pieces, its presence instantly disappearing. It died just like that. This was shattering void tier 20 stars of battle prowess, invincible in this realm, so how was it possible to be killed instantly with one move? Yi Shuang lost her calm, and shouted, "This is divine level power." Divine level power again. Ling Han and the 8 kings' expressions were very strange. Were they really living in a sealed-off small world now that divine level power appeared continuously? Another large ship, and just as terrifying. Those demon servants were completely shocked. What was going on? They'd slept soundly for countless millennia to turn their bodies into demons, and they should have been invincible in the world when they came out. They even had the important task to bring the vast lands into the underworld, being able to create history, but having just walked out of the desolate north, their boss died. How could they accept it? Hong, long, long, as the world shook violently, the eye of heavenly Tao appeared. It could be seen clearly that there was a bleeding wound on the eyeball, which actually hadn't healed after such a long time. "Milady's aura," a female general said. "It was injured by Milady. However, Milady didn't annihilate it, then we should also show mercy," the other female generals said one after another. The old woman in cyan clothing looked up at the sky, and said indifferently, "Get lost." The eye of heavenly Tao immediately blinked. "You guys think that you're all that woman, being able to injure me with a lash?" It was infuriated, and actuated the might of heaven and earth, attempting to expel these people. The small world couldn't allow divine level power. "I told you to get lost, didn't you hear?" The old woman in cyan clothing widened her eyes, instantly emitting an infinitely imposing presence. "Pa," the eye of heavenly Tao's wound split open, and large amounts of blood gushed out. Fuck. At this instant, everyone started to shout curses. Too unacceptable. The dignified eye of heavenly Tao, the embodiment of heaven and earth's will, actually couldn't endure an old woman's gaze. What was the eye of heavenly Tao? The eye of heavenly Tao shivered, feeling an intense fear. It could feel that the being below possessed the power to destroy it. A few female generals turned around and attacked the demon servants. Hong, 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 divine level power was used without restraint, instantly wiping out all the demon servants. Divine level power should be forbidden from appearing in the small world, but they attacked without restraint in front of the eye of heavenly Tao. This was the most impressive cheat in the world, right? Everyone stared agape, feeling that they could boast about the events of today for their entire life. Seeing this scene, this lifetime was worth it. The eye of heavenly Tao wailed, and left in a flash. You guys go cause a disturbance, I don't care anymore. Chapter 854, Bargain. Chapter 854, Bargain. Who would have thought that what should have been a major crisis was actually resolved so easily? Of course, it was also extremely shocking that divine beings descended and intervened, suppressing the eye of heavenly Tao so much that it had no temper to show at all. This was definitely a grand spectacle, which could be said as having given the demon servants enough face. Young lady, let's go home. The old woman in cyan clothing held on Hunyo's hand. With divine light circulating, Hunyo's injuries immediately healed. No, Nyo wants to stay with Ling Han. Hunyo struggled in a hurry, leaping behind Ling Han's back. The old woman in cyan clothing immediately looked towards Ling Han, and the other female generals did so as well, staring at Ling Han with an unfriendly gaze. It was natural abducting children, moreover their milady. This man truly deserved to die. The old woman in cyan clothing stared at Ling Han, and a terrifying oppressive pressure circulated. Ling Han instantly burst out with blood, his body even crackled explosively as his bones groaned, and even broke. The physique that he was so proud of actually couldn't withstand the old woman's stare. As expected of a divine bane or divine being that could ignore even the small world's rules. Yi Shuang was numb all across the face. She muttered, what sort of powerful being is this? Even breaking the small world's rules, could it be a Genesis tier powerhouse? God, this lady was fortunate enough to see a Genesis tier powerhouse. This was truly invincible power, not to mention Ma Duo Bao personally arriving. Even if the 5 great sects all descended and unleashed their strongest might, they would all probably be annihilated by a single move of this old woman. Won't allow you to hurt Ling Han. Hunyo stepped forward in a rush, spreading her small hands to guard in front of Ling Han. She stared angrily at the old woman and emitted a shocking killing intent as a divine light glowed from her chest, emitting a supreme presence. The legacy's power. All the female generals looked sincerely devoted, and knelt down one after another, muttering something and looking at Hunyo with a feverish gaze. Except for the old woman in cyan clothing. Smiling, she said, as expected, Yi Yun's legacy's power was handed to you. Little girl, you're the milady of our rock palace, a supreme ruler in the future. How could you be restrained by a man? Allow me to eliminate this future trouble. Don't you dare. Hunyo turned and hugged Ling Han. Ling Han is Nyo's. If you dare touch a single hair of his, Nyo will kill herself. She seemed to be aware that she couldn't do anything about the old woman's power, so she could only use her own life as a threat. Ling Han snorted, put Hunyo down, and said, I have no enmity nor hatred with you, Senior, yet Senior insists on killing me. What sort of principle is that? You're crazy, this being is too powerful. Unless I completely recover, I won't be her match at all. Small Tower shouted inside his mind, its tone sounding terrified for the first time. Being able to make Small Tower lose its calm, the power of this old woman could be imagined. The old woman sneered, and said, Brat, you're quite daring. You do know that if I want to kill you, no one can stop it. Won't allow you to hurt Ling Han. Hunyo gesticulated with her hands and feet angrily. Senior's strength is indeed far above this junior's, but this junior's strength being inferior doesn't mean that he has no pride. Ling Han was unyielding. Senior can kill me, but can't silence me. Ha ha ha. The old woman in cyan clothing laughed heartily. Supreme Elder, this brat has a very strong influence on Milady, it's better to kill him, a female general suggested. Yes, Milady is young, and doesn't know any better, being most easily enchanted. This person should be killed for his intentions. The old woman in cyan clothing waved her hand, and said, it's fine. When we return, we'll never see this brat again anyway. Seeing that he has some backbone, we'll spare his life. Yes, Supreme Elder, all the female generals replied sternly. The old woman in cyan clothing looked at Hunyo smilingly, and said, little girl, follow me back. Not going, not going. Hunyo shook her head anxiously. The old woman in cyan clothing sighed, and said, then the old woman can only kill that Ling Han or whatever. No. Hunyo was anxious, pointing at the old woman's nose, and said, didn't you say that you won't hurt Ling Han? But you don't listen, this old woman has no other way, the old woman in cyan clothing said with a smile. Hunyo pouted, and after thinking over and over again, she finally nodded, and said, okay, Nyo will comply with you. Now that's a good girl, the old woman said with a smile. She'd lived for countless of years, so could she not handle a little girl? Hunyo's gaze turned, and she said, but Nyo wants to bring Ling Han with her. Pu. The old woman in cyan clothing instantly choked, almost coughing. Why was this little girl so hard to deal with? She said sternly, no, this boy definitely cannot return with us. Hunyo bawled and started to cause a fuss, but the old woman was unfazed. Don't worry, you go back with them first, I'll definitely find you. Ling Han said. So what if it was a divine realm powerhouse? He would eventually cultivate to that level one day. You promise? Hunyo said miserably. Ling Han nodded, and said extremely discreetly, I promise. All the female generals looked at Ling Han with contempt. The brat didn't know how powerful the force they belonged to was at all. Even if you cultivate till you're a corpse, it'll still be vastly above you. It was impossible for him to tread in their territory in this lifetime. Don't even imagine it. Fine. Hunyo agreed reluctantly, walking slowly towards the old woman in cyan clothing, and said with her head tilted, Nyo wants to bring some people, or else Nyo will definitely be very disobedient. The old woman in cyan clothing laughed loudly, and said, as long as it's not this brat, anyone's fine. Hunyo was finally delighted, pointed at Helion Zun Shuer and said, take this woman with no chest. She paused momentarily, and pointed at the Lunar King, and said, and this big charming girl, Nyo would be worried. Then she pointed at Yi Shuang Shuang, and this small charming girl, Nyo's also worried about. Her jealousy erupted. Even Liu Yu Tong, Li Sai Chan, and Zhu Xian were called, including even Ling Jian Shuer. Ling Han's expression was strange. Hunyo truly planned on making him utterly alone. However, this force was definitely also a supreme existence in the divine realm, and being able to ascend into the divine realm and having Hunyo's care, it was actually a great opportunity for them all. Lord Nyo Nyo, bring Uncle Rabbit. Bring Uncle Rabbit. The rabbit was extremely proactive. Now that Hunyo became some milady of the divine realm, her future prospects were amazing, so Uncle Rabbit obviously wanted to board this tailwind ship. Hunyo, however, snorted, and said, you keep Ling Han company. Take good care of Ling Han, don't let him get bored, much less get hurt, or else Nyo will eat you. The rabbit bemoaned heaven and earth. What sort of sin did it commit for it to be abandoned? Ling Han didn't plan on convincing Hunyo to change her mind. It wasn't a bad idea to have the people by his side follow Hunyo. First, they could receive better cultivation resources and environment, and second, it was safer than being by his side. Except for the great enemy of Rock Palace that resulted in the original milady's death. However, seeing the old woman in cyan clothing and the others, Rock Palace should be an extremely powerful force with deep roots, or else even with their milady dead, how could they not have been extinguished? Ling Han nodded, letting out the people inside the Black Tower, and had them board the ship. Chapter 855, Departure. Chapter 855, Departure. Hunyo's jealousy was extremely intense, for the women beside Ling Han were all taken away, and only a bunch of men was left with him, for example, the Rain Emperor, Mu Rongqing, Feng Po Yun, the rabbit, rock spirit. There was no fear of them turning him the other way. The young milady's words very effective. No matter whether they were willing or not, they had to board the ship. Some people didn't really mind, and were even delighted, but some people were reluctant to part, especially Ling Han's parents, who had always had more partings than gatherings with their son, and now that they were leaving again, they were heartbroken. Fortunately, their grandson was by their side, giving them something to place their hopes in, or else they would definitely think about their son constantly, their hair turning grey. Zhu Xian Li Sai Chan, and Liu Yutong were filled with tears. Helian Zun Shui was headstrong, but still revealed her reluctance. The Lunar King shouted, "Why bring this king away too? This king has nothing that's unclear going on with this brat. Yeah, this lady is as clear as ice and jade, having completely nothing to do with that brat." Yi Shuang also protested. Although she wanted to return to the immortal realm, she wasn't willing to do it in this way. Hu Niu, however, snorted, and said, "Big fairy, little fairy, big and small fairy, Niu's worried about all of them. Take them all away." After everyone boarded the ship, the divine ship flew up slowly. "Ling Han, you definitely have to find Niu." At the bow, Hu Niu waved her hand with all her strength. "Definitely," Ling Han said in a low voice. Soon, he'd charge into the immortal realm and definitely gather everyone, and he'd also make the people of Rock Palace have a whole new respect for him. Hong, the divine ship blasted open a spatial fissure, and zoomed right in. After the ship's stern also disappeared, the spatial fissure immediately disappeared as if the divine ship had never appeared at all. A terrifying oppressive force surged as the Eye of Heavenly Tao appeared and blinked in the sky, blood dripping from it. The world also rained down blood as if lamenting for the Eye of Heavenly Tao. The massive eye that represented the heaven and earths will stared at Ling Han as if wanting to kill him. Ling Han stood with his hands behind his back, no inferior in his imposing manner. The Eye of Heavenly Tao was indeed powerful. It was enough to kill him, but heaven and earth had its own rule, so as long as one didn't defy the natural order, heaven and earth wouldn't touch him. It was a rule that the Eye of Heavenly Tao also had to obey, or else, without rules, heaven and earth would also lose the meaning of its existence. He worked for humanity and lived up to his conscience and the people of the world, so why should he fear the Eye of Heavenly Tao? The Eye of Heavenly Tao blinked, and finally disappeared again. "Damn, seventh sister's been kidnapped, how do we explain to the boss?" The remaining 7 kings finally caught their breath, and complained incessantly. Ling Han smiled at them, and said, "Thanks to everyone for rushing to the rescue. However, the Lunar King entering the Divine Realm 1 in advance might not be a bad thing. If you guys don't try hard, maybe when you guys meet again, the Lunar King will hang you guys up and beat you." The 7 kings' expression changed drastically. The Lunar King definitely would do such a thing. No, they had to try hard to cultivate and increase the power of their divine sense, which was the main direction of cultivation at their level. Their cultivation couldn't improve, but their divine sense could, so once they entered the divine realm and broke through to the god tier, they'd welcome a period of improving by leaps and bounds. The 7 kings took their leave. The Lunar King being brought to the divine realm was a great matter, and obviously had to be reported to Ma Duo Bao immediately. After Ling Han sent them off, he returned to the imperial palace with Feng Poyun and the Rain Emperor. Although the demon servants were completely annihilated, cleaning up the demonic qi and rebuilding the desolate north was a very problematic matter. Feng Poyun was very bold and generous. Seeing that Ling Han didn't know whom to call Big Brother to, so he simply decided to have the 4 of them become sworn brothers. The Rain Emperor and Mu Rongqing gladly agreed, and now Feng Poyun was obviously still the eldest, the Rain Emperor the 2nd eldest, and Mu Rongqing the 3rd eldest, while Ling Han dropped a grade from 3rd to 4th, and became the youngest brother. This made him quite gloomy, being the 3rd had already been pitiful enough, but now he was reduced to being the 4th. With nothing to do, he could only cultivate. Ling Han and his brothers strived to become stronger. They'd seen great power even the Eye of Heavenly Tao could only yield in front of it, deeply moving them and arousing a fierce fighting spirit within them. They wanted to dictate their own destiny, and to do so, they needed the support of powerful strength. Time went by quietly. Strangely, the sea race made no movements, and it was unknown whether they turned their nose up at the land or were waiting for something. Besides, although Ao Jian was powerful, he wasn't powerful enough to rival Ma Duo Bao, not to mention the latter still had power of the nation's blessing, which made him even more terrifying. After half a year, Ling Han finally broke through to the shattering void tier. Hong, long, long, heaven and earth immediately reacted, with thunder clouds crowding together. Dazzling white lightning was flickering within as it was in the process of brewing a terrifying danger. Treading into the shattering void tier, one needed to pass the heavenly tribulation. Such beings truly possessed the strength to threaten heaven and earth, so the latter would impose restrictions, and only when they pulled through the heavenly tribulation would they truly be able to become shattering void tier existences. Otherwise, there was only one word for what would await them: death. This also proved the bearing of the shattering void tier. Even heaven and earth would interfere. Ling Han stood proudly between heaven and earth, enduring the strikes of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation became ninth heaven's divine thunder, separate from the five elements, its power infinite. Hong, long, long, the divine thunder was extremely terrifying. Its power reached shattering void tier 20 stars. Usually, what battle prowess could one have, having just broken through to the shattering void tier? Barely having 1 star was already praiseworthy, and obviously one couldn't rival shattering void tier 2 stars. Fortunately, the heavenly tribulation continued for a limited amount of time, half a day. Otherwise, if the heavenly tribulation had to be defeated to pass it, there'd probably only be 1 in 10,000 of the shattering void tiers remaining in the world. Pa, 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 the divine thunder struck Ling Han's body, yet it was like small rain sweeping by, having no effect at all. The instant Ling Han set foot in the shattering void tier, his physique also surpassed 10th tier rare metal, reaching the level of divine metal. So, what threat could the bombardment of such divine thunder possibly pose to him? Ling Han instead relaxed his body and mind, absorbing the power of the heavenly tribulation to improve his body of lightning. His body of lightning was only at the level of a novice, and to attain great mastery, the power of lightning needed not only had to be stronger, but also purer, so it definitely wasn't achievable by refining normal lightning. The heavenly tribulation definitely could be used. It was known as divine thunder, after all. Invigorating. Ling Han absorbed the power of thunder while the thunderclap ninth heaven circulated within his body, changing his body and advancing towards great mastery. Truly envious, our youngest brother is the first to advance to the shattering void tier, yet I'm still a sliver away from heaven tier. Mu Rongqing said and shook his head, feeling happy for Ling Han, and at the same time feeling immense pressure. His cultivation speed was not slow already, but it definitely couldn't compare with Ling Han's. The Rain Emperor smiled, and said, our youngest brother is a true genius, not only having exceptional martial arts talent, but even being a master at alchemy and formations. You don't have to be envious, just cultivate diligently. Feng Po Yun also nodded repeatedly, and said, our youngest brother's physique is truly terrifying, not only remaining unharmed under the bombardment of divine thunder, but also transforming it for his use. Report. A soldier ran over, knelt down, and said, report to the 3 kings, the special ambassador of Purple Moon Emperor's court requests a meeting. Chapter 856, Good News and Bad News. Chapter 856, Good News and Bad News. Ling Han showered in the divine thunder, his lanky figure emitting divine light as if he were a divine being. To him, the heavenly tribulation was simply going through the motions, for his formidable physique allowed him to ignore such bombardments. It was more like giving him a massage. His lightning body was advancing into great mastery, approaching great perfection, at least in the range of humanity. Perhaps, after arriving at the divine realm, an upper limit would be opened, who knew? After half a day, he easily passed the heavenly tribulation, and his lightning body also reached great mastery. Congrats, congrats, finally advancing to the shattering void tier, barely breaking away from the level of mortals, Small Tower said within his consciousness. Ling Han was shocked, and said, you actually know how to say congrats. Your character changed. Small Tower snorted, and said, should I send out a divine wave to exterminate you? Ling Han laughed loudly, and said, that's more like you, I believe it. Small Tower couldn't help but be gloomy. Did it speak that harshly usually? However, the shattering void tear is only breaking away from the mortal level. And barely? Linghan asked thoughtlessly. Wasn't the flower blossom tear surpassing the level of mortals? Small Tower snorted, acting arrogant before saying, under normal circumstances, shattering void tear can shatter the void and set foot in the divine realm. This is the boundary between divine and mortal, so only having walked to this step could one qualify to claim to have broken away from being mortal. Linghan gave an oh, he finally crossed into a new tier. It surpassed his experience in the previous life, and he had to fathom the road ahead on his own from now, no longer having any experience to draw from. There are 2 pieces of good news and 1 of bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Small Tower went on. Linghan was shocked, and said, Did you really take the wrong medicine today, even playing tricks now? Then let's hear the bad news first. You can no longer use Black Tower's power boost. If Small Tower could roll its eyes, it definitely would have done so. Why not? Linghan was extremely out of sorts. This was his strongest trump card, and although it could only be used once in each tier, it could turn the tables completely. No means no. This was originally meant to allow you to tide over when you were weaker, not as a method for you to rely on. Small Tower snorted. This truly was a bad news. Linghan sighed, and said, Then the good news. First, Black Tower's 3rd layer's space has opened, Small Tower said. The power of metal origin? Linghan revealed an exhalated look. Black Tower had a total of 9 layers, but only opened the 3rd layer just now. Were the remaining layers all going to be left till the divine realm to open? Correct, starting from now on, roughly half a kilogram of divine metal can be produced each year, but if you leave it be, the divine metal's quality will become higher and higher, Small Tower said. Divine metal. Once he entered the divine realm, even the Revere life sword would soon lose its luster. Only weapons forged with divine metal could dominate there. Why does it take a year? This is divine metal and I haven't recovered, so giving you half a kilogram is already not bad. Small Tower snorted. Linghan nodded, and said, This barely counts as good news. Then what's the second one? You can now cultivate the 2nd layer of the indestructible Heaven's Scroll, Small Tower said. Linghan was startled. After a while, he said, You sure this is good news? You have to know that the 1st layer took me 10,000 years to comprehend, so how long will the 2nd layer take? 1,000,000 years. Small Tower sneered, and said, The 1st layer's not as simple as tempering the physique, it contains the general principles of a 3-fold art. It's just that you haven't learned the 2nd layer of the art, so you're totally oblivious that you've actually grasped more than you know. Linghan sighed in relief, and said, You mean, I can grasp the 2nd layer of the art quickly? I didn't say that. Small Tower swayed as if shaking its head. If you're naturally more stupid, then not comprehending it in a millennium would be quite normal. Linghan disregarded it, and started to laugh. He said, This is the authentic and slanderous Small Tower, feels much more familiar. Small Tower was somewhat driven mad. Was being cheap an innate quality of this brat? Whenever it took a kinder tone, the former would seem uncomfortable. It snorted, and said, Indestructible Heaven's Scroll's 1st layer cultivates the physique, the 2nd layer cultivates the divine sense. Here's the art, go comprehend it on your own. It shook lightly. Countless golden characters circulated from within the Black Tower instantly, rushing forth in Linghan's consciousness. Strictly speaking, these weren't words, at least Linghan couldn't recognize them at all, but it didn't hurt for him to comprehend the meaning within them. It surpassed the level of language and words, and reached directly to the essence. He originally wanted to ask what the 3rd layer, but his attention was immediately attracted by these golden characters, and he couldn't help but drift off within them, starting to fathom them. Indestructible Heaven's Scroll's 2nd layer cultivated the divine sense. The divine sense of living beings was extremely fragile. For example, even now that Linghan crossed into the shattering void tier, if he encountered the Sword King, who used Sword Heart Illumination in a sneak attack, then Linghan's body would be fine, but his divine sense would be directly extinguished. To withstand it was also easy. Drawing away or also opposing it with the heart of martial arts would do it as well. That would be the battle between divine senses, more dangerous, and if someone was defeated, their divine sense would be annihilated, and flesh would become an empty shell that would slowly rot, or perhaps birth a new soul after 1,000 years. Ling Han's physique now reached the level of divine metal, which was definitely imperishable in the lower realm. If his divine sense were extinguished, it was extremely likely that a new soul would be born, but that would no longer be him. However, if he cultivated the indestructible Heaven Scroll's second layer, his divine sense would be strengthened, and at last become as stable as his physique. Not only would it be able to leave his body, but even remain intact when enduring a powerful impact. Even rebirth with a single thought. How could only the body being imperishable be truly imperishable? Ling Han was unable to contain his joy, and couldn't help but begin to comprehend it. When he had slightly comprehended it and stopped abruptly, 10 days had already passed. He flew down from the sky, and saw that Feng Po Yun and the others were waiting for him. Feng Po Yun and the 2 others greeted him, and asked concernedly, "Younger brother, did you encounter no problems when breaking through, suffering internal injuries?" Ling Han instantly revealed an embarrassed look, and said, "Sorry to worry you older brothers. I'm fine, just had a sudden comprehension, so I immediately began trying to fathom it." "That's good." The 3 brothers all nodded. "Right, a special ambassador came from Purple Moon Emperor's court." Rain Emperor suddenly pat his head, remembering something. "What's the matter?" Ling Han asked. "Ma Duo Bao is about to split open the skies, and specially invited us to attend the ceremony," Feng Po Yun said with a smile. Ling Han thought of it, and indeed, the period of 1 year had ended. Time passed so quickly. It had been half a year since Hunyo and his parents had left, and he constantly cultivated in this half a year to take up all his time, not thinking about his family and lovers, but now he was suddenly flooded with yearning, making him wish to charge to the divine realm immediately. "Very well, let's tidy up and get to the ceremony," Ling Han said with a smile. "Best that this fatty is strong enough so that we can also benefit from it." The 3 brothers laughed loudly. Splitting open the skies was a matter simply too important, and each day that the skies weren't split open to enter the divine realm would be one more day that they would have to worry about the 5-sect scheme. It was truly irritating. Moreover, the sea race couldn't be neglected, either. They obviously couldn't watch blankly as the vast lands broke away from their grasp. The rabbit, rock spirit, gold-seeking rat, and Helian Tianyun all came, and in addition to Guang Yuan, Kan Yi, and the other generals, the party of about 50 people set out for Purple Moon Emperor's court. Splitting open the skies was the most heroic undertaking in the small world. Chapter 857 Attending the Ceremony. Chapter 857 Attending the Ceremony. Ling Han put everyone except for Feng Po Yun and Helian Tianyun into the Black Tower, and then hastened swiftly like the wind and lightning. The shattering void tier's speed was obviously the fastest in the world. Helian Tianyun advanced to the shattering void tier half a month earlier than Ling Han. With the almost restrictionless provision of spirit medicine in the Black Tower, and him having no bottlenecks to worry about, he could improve as much as the amount of spirit medicine he took, so he was obviously extremely fast. Although I'm only at the first layer of the shattering void tier now, my battle prowess can rival 10 stars, and in addition to power of the nation's blessing, my battle prowess can reach 18 stars. Ling Han tested his own strength while dashing. However, power of the nation's battle prowess wasn't simply addition as expected, or else my current battle prowess extreme should be 19 stars, even 20 stars. The higher the tier, the weaker increase the same power brings, a natural thing. Just like when I was still in the heaven tier, my own battle prowess compared to the power of the nation's increase was completely not worth mentioning. 1 star in the shattering void tier is a world's difference, and looking at it this way, if my own battle prowess reached 20 stars, then in terms of the current power of the nation, the improvement to my battle prowess will probably be at most 2 stars. However, regarding improvements above the limit, even 1 star of battle prowess is extremely terrifying, being equal to an inherent change. After 3 days, they entered the middle state, and then entered Purple Moon Emperor's court's territory. Instantly, Ling Han and Feng Po Yun both lost power of the nation's blessing. Suddenly losing immense power made them feel the emptiness of loss. Ling Han couldn't get used to it, but then suddenly realized something, saying, "Power of the nation indeed is a good thing, but it can only be a support. Relying on it definitely can't become a habit." Feng Po Yun also nodded sternly. Martial artists ultimately pursued their own strength. If you relied too much on the power of the nation, then would you not go to places where the power of the nation couldn't reach? If so, exploring historic sites and the like would have completely nothing to do with you. The three of them came to the imperial city. They stopped outside, letting everyone out from the Black Tower, and then sent their credentials, going along with the formal visitation protocol. Ma Duo Bao sent out the Heavenly Astral King, welcoming people of the Great Ling Empire to the Imperial Palace. Congrats to the Great Ling King, finally advancing to the shattering void tier. Heavenly Astral King said to Ling Han. He remembered that the first time he saw Ling Han's strength was beneath his notice, but now, he unexpectedly reached the same level as his so quickly. Of course, he was fully confident in his own battle prowess, and believed that if Ling Han truly wanted to be his equal, it would take at least over 100 years to improve and polish his tier. Ling Han chuckled, and said, "Half a year since we parted. Heavenly Astral King's bearing is still just as refined." Speaking some civilities for a while, they entered the Imperial Palace. Splitting open the skies was set to be 3 days later. At this time, countless noble families in the Middle State rushed over, priding over the qualification to enter the Imperial Palace. The Purple Moon Emperor's court was too powerful now. In the battle at Heaven's Sword Sect, the 5 sects were utterly defeated, resulting in Ma Duo Bao's reputation of being invincible. The world's first killing formation, shattering void tier 20 stars of battle prowess. Thus, when some girls heard that Ma Duo Bao didn't have an empress, they became restless, wanting to take down the world's most precious bachelor to reach the heavens in a single bound. Ma Duo Bao was in the process of making the last preparations. He didn't see anyone these few days, clearing his mind and focusing his spirit, adjusting his status to the optimum. Ling Han obviously understood this. He would do the same if it were him. After all, this was an unprecedented heroic undertaking. Except for Ling Han, no one else knew that the vast lands had already experienced splitting open the skies once. This was too unimaginable, even the divine realm's powerhouses couldn't do it, so it was even more unimaginable for the lower realm. Ling Han and the others were arranged at an elegant side manner. After the Heavenly Astral King said a few words, he took his leave. After all, there were too many guests, and the 7 kings were very busy. However, Flame King 1, Great Water King, and the other 6 kings each still took time to come over separately to talk about the old days with Ling Han. After all, everyone fought alongside each other, and Ling Han even received Ma Duo Bao's recognition. After 3 days, they were invited out, coming to the sky-splitting platform that was constructed long ago. It was like a coliseum, stone seats in the surroundings, while the middle was left empty, with a giant axe that had a chilling glare. The Mountain River Axe. Later, Ma Duo Bao would pick up the Mountain River Axe to split open the skies, while everyone would sit and watch the ceremony. Ling Han and the other 50 people were led by an imperial guard as they headed towards the highest layer of the sky-splitting platform. This was the most honorable position that Ma Duo Bao left for him. No one could stand side by side with him. The 7 kings patrolled the surrounding of the sky-splitting platform. Today was a great day for Purple Moon Emperor's court, and precautions had to be taken against the 5 sects, the 1,000 Corpse sect, or the sea race possibly causing trouble. "Hey, you guys move." Since as many seats were arranged as possible, the aisle was very narrow. At such an occasion, who dared to fly in the skies? That would be greatly disrespectful. As a result, traveling back and forth, 2 groups of people would easily run into each other. If it were only 2 people, then making way for each other would be a trivial matter, but when there was more than 10 people, making way would hold them up for a long time. More importantly, martial artists all wanted face. Who would want to be the one to give way first? Ling Han and the others were blocked by a group of people. The other side had quite a few people, roughly 20, all youngsters, and each of them was swollen with inordinate arrogance. This was very natural. They were from the Liu family. The Liu family started a period of glory. The family's ancestor broke through to the shattering void tier 4 years ago, and became the strongest in the vast lands, one of the strongest. In Liu family's junior's opinion, their family's ancestor was the world's #1 expert, allowing them to do whatever they wanted. Their coming here to attend the ceremony was fucking giving Purple Moon Emperor's court face, alright? Yet now, there were people who dared to walk in their path. Were they tired of living? Daring to walk in our path? Who the hell do you guys think you are? Hurry up and kneel down, looking at you guys is irritating. Quite a few youngsters immediately snapped, loftiness written all across their face. Previously, when their ancestor was in the heaven tier, they were already rampant enough, and now, they were obviously even more unbridled. Impudence. Kan Yi and the others drew their weapons one after Anatherto dared disrespect their liege. They courted death. Ling Han, however, smiled faintly, and said, "Today is Brother Ma's greatly joyous day, don't resort to force." Yes. Everyone abided strictly. Now you're talking. Liu family's youngsters all laughed loudly. With Ling Han yielding, they no longer had the thought of making Ling Han and the others kneel down, and simply walked away swaggeringly, arriving at their designated seats. On their way, they were still talking about the matter just now in high spirits, feeling that their ancestor was impressive as expected. They didn't even announce their surname, and the other party backed off already. What happened? Liu family's ancestor and the few important figures of the family were already seated, but these juniors couldn't sit still, striking up a conversation wherever they saw a beauty. These youngsters began speaking merrily, and obviously regarded Ling Han and the others as beneath contempt. Liu family's ancestor thoughtlessly turned his head to look, and his face couldn't help but twitch, immediately becoming stern. He pointed at Ling Han and the others, and said, "The group you guys were talking about, is it them?" "Ancestor, it is them." The youngsters nodded one after another. This old man will beat you guys to death." Liu family's ancestor almost failed to catch his breath, and instantly lashed out at the youngsters' faces. Chapter 858, Terribly Scared. Chapter 858, Terribly Scared. Other people didn't recognize him, but would Liu family's ancestor not know Feng Po Yun, who was an extremely rare shattering void tier loose cultivator? There were quite a few legends regarding him. Feng Po Yun also cultivated Sword Heart, having the reputation of being invincible in the same tier. Not to mention a Liu family's ancestor who had just advanced into shattering void tier, he acknowledged that he wouldn't be Feng Po Yun's match even at the 5th layer shattering void tier. Moreover, how many shattering void tier elites did the other party have in total? 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 people, and 1 giant stone puppet. Did you guys eat a dragon's guts? Wasn't this just delivering a pretext to exterminate the Liu family? Pa. Liu family's ancestor gave these youngsters a sound thrashing, making them feel completely baffled. After beating them until they were covered with bruises, Liu family's ancestor stopped, and said, "Don't heal your injuries, and follow this old man to go give an apology." What? The youngsters finally knew that the ancestor gave them a sound thrashing because of Ling Han and the others, making them puzzled. It was not like they weren't rampant normally, they were even more exaggerated, doing things even more domineering countless times, but their family wouldn't even say a word of rebuke then, right? Yet now, they not only took a fierce beating, but were also going to apologize. Who were these people? If they were kick-ass, then why did they back off? Well, obviously in fear of the Liu family, no? Ancestor, why? Someone asked. He was Liu family's favorite descendant, and only he dared to ask at this time. The others all held their breath and concentrated, wanting to know the answer, or else they'd feel wronged. Do you guys think that this old man breaking through to the shattering void tier means that he's invincible in the world? Liu family's ancestor snorted, and said, "Amongst the people that you guys bullied earlier, there were 4 shattering void tier elites, and at least one of them only needs 1 move to defeat this old man. Pu." The youngsters instantly spurted out, how was it possible? In their eyes, their ancestor was invincible. Even if he fell short a little, he would still be undefeated. The shattering void tier stood at the peak of the world, and absolutely didn't need to fear anyone. Liu family's ancestor sighed inwardly. If he were free of attachments and constraints, then he indeed wouldn't need to fear anyone. Was it not easy to run for shattering void tier elites if they wanted? But now, he had a family, businesses, and descendants, but Feng Po-yun was completely alone, so how could he not lower his head? He didn't move, waiting till Ling Han and the others sat down. He'd immediately take the juniors to go apologize. Liu family's people all watched, and revealed a shocked look because the position of Ling Han and the others was far above theirs, at the highest place of the sky-splitting platform, where the entire scene could be seen. The seats couldn't be chosen recklessly. There was consideration for where each force sat, a type of recognition from the Purple Moon Emperor's court. And, in the world, who dared to have objections against Purple Moon Emperor's court? Would you dare protest against an elite with shattering void tier 20 stars of battle prowess? Below Ling Han, a whole area was vacant. It was a kind of stance of Purple Moon Emperor's court that no force could sit as equals with the Great Ling Empire, being not even one notch lower, but instead several levels lower. Seeing this scene, not to mention Liu family's youngsters who were unconvinced, even Liu family's ancestor was somewhat displeased on the inside. He admitted that he wasn't Feng Po-yun's match, but everyone was in the shattering void tier. He was only slightly inferior, but still in the same level. Now that the two of them not only did not sit as equals, but were also several levels apart, wasn't this underestimating him too much? Not only him, the other people also noticed. Even though the middle state only had a few shattering void tier elites other than the 5 sects, it was the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, Alchemist Society, Cold Spear Association, and a few other forces that possessed elites at this level. They still had them, after all. Now that they were several heads shorter than Ling Han, looking up at him as if his subjects, it made them all feel out of sorts. Liu family's ancestor instantly gave up on the original idea, and said inwardly, "Hehe, a tall tree catches the wind." With many elites intervening, this old man can instead wait and see. If they're beaten down, then they'd have no face to give us trouble. All the forces that had shattering void tier elites were unconvinced. For what reasons could you guys sit high up? Feng Po-yun indeed was very strong, but not strong to that degree. A shattering void tier elite walked to the high end, and said scornfully, "Hehe, below some seats is a volcano, not everyone has the qualification to sit there, or else once the volcano erupts, one would be burned to ashy." He was a veteran shattering void tier who'd been well known for at least 500 to 600 years, and was now at the 8th layer of the shattering void tier. Still, he was too old, his chi and blood deteriorating, and his battle prowess actually didn't reach 8 stars. However, from qualification alone, he really was incredible, a real veteran. So, he was the first one to refuse to accept it. "I have high prestige and a glorious name, yet I have to sit below you guys. Do you guys have such qualifications?" The elite's surname was Man, first name Jingy. He was over 1,000 years old now, with less than 10 years of life left, so he had much less scruples in his conduct, taking a stance of mutual destruction no matter how strong an opponent he encountered. The older he got, the more he cared about an undeserved reputation. A saying said that men lived by honor as trees stood to live. Wasn't it like that? Ling Han chuckled, and said, "No problem, I can handle it." "You sure?" Man Jingy raised his white brows. "Hehe, elder man's about to get serious. Although the old fellow's chi and blood are deteriorating, his tier is as it stands at the 8th layer of the shattering void tier, after all. The people with tier higher than his in the world can be counted on one's fingers. Burning chi and blood to fight at the extreme, elder man can still unleash battle prowess of 8 stars, the strongest battle prowess in the world." Everyone nodded. Don't assume that battle prowess above shattering void tier 9 stars was easy to achieve. 8 was too hard to battle surpassing tiers at shattering void tier. That was why people said that 1 star was a world's difference. Those as powerful as the Sword King could only battle while surpassing 3 to 4 stars. Was the world filled with such geniuses? Certainly. Ling Han said with a smile. Man Jingy raised his hand, and said, "Then how about you take this old man's move?" Ling Han smiled, and said, "Sure, please go ahead." In the sky, the 7 kings watched. "Should we help?" Justice Mountain King said. Heavenly Astral King shook his head, and said, Being able to gain His Majesty's recognition, even if his strength can't be compared to ours, means he's not one to be defeated by such trash. Moreover, his physique is the same as His Majesty's, so what if that old trash bombarded him? Tuche. The 6 other kings all nodded, and gave up on the idea of intervening. Man Jingyi was somewhat surprised. This youngster was truly a young one that knew no fear, thinking that he was invincible just because he advanced into the shattering void tier. Today, he'd have him know that the older, the wiser. He leapt into the sky, and said, "Then let's fight." No matter how arrogant he was, he wouldn't dare to destroy the sky-splitting platform. Not to mention Ma Duo Bao, any of the 7 kings could take care of him. The old man loved face, and obviously wouldn't want to be defeated publicly. Chapter 859, Unequaled Physique. Chapter 859, Unequaled Physique. They're about to fight. They're about to fight. Various people from the Liu family watched with excitement. Naturally, each and every one of them wished for Ling Han to lose. Ling Han smiled casually as he stepped into the air. It was as though there were invisible stairs in the sky which allowed him to ascend as if he was climbing a hill. In consideration of your seniority, you can have the first 3 moves. He beckoned the other party over with a finger. How haughty. Man Jingyi's anger reached the limit, causing his white hair to dance in the air. He began to burn his qi and blood. Determined to fight to the fullest of his power. He wanted to defeat this arrogant youngster in one move. Even if you're amazing enough to enter the void-shattering tier at your young age, you should still learn that there is always someone better out there. Hong, his imposing aura continuously became stronger, reaching the battle prowess of void-shattering tier's 8 stars, matching his cultivation. Be suppressed for me. He flew across the air, going towards Ling Han as he focused his suppression on him. Ling Han neither dodged nor retreated, letting the other party come attack him. He was immediately hit with a palm on his chest. Hiss, this was what he called a 3-move handicap. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched, they sucked in cold air as they couldn't believe their eyes. Allowing someone a number of moves was only about letting the other party attack first. One still had to resist what they should resist, and one still had to avoid what they should avoid. It did not by any means refer to neither dodging nor defending, suffering the attacks by taking them head-on with just one's body. The fact that shattering void tier martial artists didn't die was simply because no one could obstruct them if they wanted to escape, yet by messing around this way, even those in the shattering void tier can die quickly. Now, he would definitely instant kill him with one move. Yet, Man Jingyi screamed. Both his arms trembled, and appeared unfathomably distorted. His bones were dislocated. What? Everyone hardly dared believe their eyes. Goddamn, one person attacked the other with a powerful palm strike, yet the result was that the former's arms broke? Just where was logic in that? Man Jingyi's origin power shook, resetting the bones that had dislocated. His cheek twitched, disbelief written all over his face. How was this possible? The other party bore the power of his palm, yet not only was he unharmed, it was himself who got his bones dislocated. This defensive power was completely unnatural. There are still 2 moves, Ling Han said indifferently. There was absolute silence. No one spoke, and only the sound of heavy breathing could be heard besides the echo of Ling Han's voice. Even the 7 kings were indescribably astonished. It looks like this boy's physique became stronger again. Before, it was at the level of a 10th tier precious metal, so did it now become as strong as a divine metal? Fuck, is there still anyone in this world who can kill him? Let alone kill, is there anyone who can even wound him? An agonized expression appeared on Man Jingyi's face. Even if he could defeat Ling Han, so what? There would be no glory in that. How could such an abnormal person exist? It was no wonder that Ling Han could be given the highest position by the Purple Moon Court. Once someone experienced this sort of defensive power, who would be unable to accept him? He took a deep breath. It was too late to retreat, so he could only hope that Ling Han's defensive power couldn't be so awesome at all times. If he could do a bit better against Ling Han, he would be able to retain some face. After holding his breath for 3 full breaths, he unleashed an ultimate technique. Ash-gray river stream, annihilating 10,000 miles. Hong, he stirred the water element in the world, transforming it into a black river, which faced Ling Han, trying to attack him. Each drop of the river water was congealed from pure origin power. It was heavy like a mountain, so if the river landed a direct hit against someone, then even if the target was a person in the 9th layer of the shattering void tier, they would still be immediately crushed and die. Ling Han was standing mid-air with hands behind his back as before, having no intention to evade. Hey, is he planning to take this move head-on as well? The clear Solar King gasped in astonishment. With his strength, he could take out Man Jingyi in a flash, but he wouldn't dare to take his attacks head-on so nonchalantly like this. So having defense at the level of a divine weapons allows you to be so willful, the heavenly astral king said with a sigh. Physique was the most difficult to cultivate. Although the kings also had some accomplishments in this area, theirs were only at the heaven tiers level. It was impossible for any of them to make the last, final step. Hong, the black river struck, hitting Ling Han's body heavily, submerging him in an instant. Amidst the heavy noise, the black river poured downwards, crashing down onto the sky-splitting platform, which terrified countless people. It was not a random attack of just any shattering void tier elite, but an ultimate move of someone at the 8th layer of the tier. Even for most of them at the shattering void tier, if they received it, they would only end up taken out in a flash. Leave it to me. The Flame King's figure flashed, and was already in the path of the incoming black river. He reached out his hand, and turned the whole river into ashes in an instant. He already had the battle prowess of shattering void tier 15 stars in the first place, and now, with the addition of the power of the nation, his battle prowess skyrocketed to 18 stars. As such, if he wanted to disperse a powerful attack of someone with the battle prowess of 8 stars of the shattering void tier, it was naturally easy and relaxing for him. With the catastrophe averted, everyone finally relaxed. Their attention didn't focus on the Flame King's figuretto them, it was only natural that he had such power. Their focus was on Ling Han, who took this move head-on. Was he heavily wounded, or was he still like before, with not even a single hair of his harmed? The black river dispersed, and they only now saw that Ling Han was actually still standing proudly, the blood and qi all over his body churning like in a heavenly furnace. This freak. The old ancestor of the Liu family was trembling. It wasn't good at all. He had to immediately come up to Ling Han and apologize and make reparations. This kind of person was really fearful. If he bore a grudge, the Liu family would definitely be done for. Without even mentioning anything else, he wasn't even Ling Han's match in how long their lives had been. Still one move, Ling Han said with a smile. His qi wasn't depleted at all. At this moment, everyone suddenly understood. It wasn't that Ling Han was arrogant, but rather that he was indeed too strong. With such a physique, let alone 3 moves, what did 300 moves count as? Man Jingyi simply had no idea what to do. He'd already used his strongest move just now, but just like before, he had been unable to hurt even a single hair on Ling Han's head. Even if he used the same move again, just what kind of effect would it have? No need, this old man concedes defeat. His whole heart was thoroughly filled with bitterness. It wasn't like he had never lost in his whole life, but he'd never encountered an opponent in the same tier who forced him to admit defeat without attacking once. This was the first time it had ever happened. Being capable of reaching the shattering void tier several hundred years ago, that meant that he was a genius. Of course Man Jingyi would become arrogant. Yet, he still couldn't help but admit that he was getting old. No, it was no longer his heyday. You let me win, Ling Han said faintly. He showed no arrogance, and didn't harp on the matter with Man Jingyi. Man Jingyi turned around casually, returning to his seat. However, at this moment, there was no longer anyone glancing at him at all. Instead, everyone's attention was completely focused on Ling Han now. He was a super new star. What? His Ling Han, that heaven-grade alchemist. I really didn't expect that there would exist such a genius in this world, not only reaching the apex of alchemy, but also becoming so formidable on the martial path. He'll certainly become one of those who will dominate the world. If His Majesty succeeds at splitting open the sky, we will all become people of the divine grade, and at that time we can obtain the divine realm's resources to cultivate. Later, we won't necessarily lose to him. Indeed, most of the people had recognized Ling Han's talent, but there were also those who looked at him with unkind eyes, not at all willing to accept him. However, Ling Han once more headed toward that seat, and there no longer was anyone who tried to stop him. If you aren't convinced, why not try delivering 3 moves? The old ancestor of the Liu family immediately approached with his juniors in tow, apologizing to Ling Han. Those juniors also finally knew that there was always someone better, and every single one of them was covered in cold sweat. With Ling Han's current strength, dealing with them would be like killing livestock. Would the old ancestor still dare have any objections now? Chapter 860 Ma Duo Bao Splits Open the Skies. Chapter 860 Ma Duo Bao Splits Open the Skies. His Majesty has arrived, a guard announced loudly. His Majesty has arrived. His Majesty has arrived. His Majesty has arrived. Any person who was a soldier of the Purple Moon Empire shouted loudly, causing the earth itself to shake and their cries to ring out in the air. Ma Duo Bao appeared. He was dressed in his imperial robes, but due to the width of his waist, he had instantly lost his majestic aura completely, causing many a girl to cover her grin. However, there were also many women with unique tastes whose eyes lit up, and they exclaimed at how cute he was. Only when the air he exuded surged past like a flood did many people shudder. This damn fatty was the person in the highest position in the whole world, as well as the most powerful person there. He had no equal. Under the barrage of this kind of aura, there were only a rare few that could maintain their composure, such as Ling Han, Helian Tianyun, Feng Poyun, and the 7 kings. They were pitifully few. Ma Duo Bao strode over, and arrived in the center of the platform prepared to split open the skies. He stood firm, and declared, "I shall split the skies open this day. Long live our Majesty!" The soldiers of the Purple Moon Empire all called out loudly, extremely excited. Splitting open the skies was a grand, majestic feat that had never been done before. Ma Duo Bao pressed his hands down, indicating for the masses to quiet down. As you all know, the 5 sects are heartless, and treat our lower realm like their herb garden. Every 10,000 years, they would harvest all the living creatures of the entire realm and refine them into an alchemical pill. Their actions are extremely abominable. Since that is the case, we can only save ourselves. We'll split open the skies and strike the earth to raise our lower realm into the immortal realm. From now on, every citizen in the world would be a citizen of the immortal realm, and everyone would be like dragons. Hearing the last few words he said, everyone was incredibly excited. Citizens of the immortal realm, it was a qualitative upgrade. Being citizens of the immortal realm meant that there would be more cultivation resources, a better environment for martial arts, and brighter future prospects. If the initial limitation was the flower blossom tier, then they could possibly attain the spiritual infant or even deity transformation tier in the future. Split open the skies. Every man a dragon. Long live the emperor. Everyone shouted loudly. There were even some whose voices were hoarse from their shouts. They were so excited they almost passed out. Ma Duo Bao did not continue speaking. Splitting open the skies would be the strongest declaration, better and superior than anything else. Ling Han was also paying close attention. If Ma Duo Bao could succeed, then he would instantly be able to enter into the immortal realm and find out the whereabouts of Hu Niu, the heavenly phoenix divine maiden, and the others. Furthermore, the cultivation rate in the immortal realm would definitely be much faster than in the lower realm. There was no need to doubt this fact. Ma Duo Bao lifted the mountain and river axe in a single go. Wang, this treasured tool immediately shone with brilliant light. Terrifying aura surged past, causing everyone to have a difficult time breathing. This was the manifestation of all the powers of a realm, the most powerful treasure of the lower realm. Xiao, Ma Duo Bao trod on air and flew up, standing proudly in the sky. Open. He brandished the mountain and river axe, and delivered a heavy slash at the skies. Hong, long, long, the empty space was torn open by his strike, revealing a dark, silent space as if an eye had opened. Wang, the eye of heavenly Tao appeared, still having an obvious injury. It stared coldly at Ma Duo Bao, but did not make any move. Ma Duo Bao had only struck once at this moment, and had yet to threaten the realm itself. Thus, the Eye of Heavenly Tao did not move, but if Ma Duo Bao raised his battle prowess again and struck madly at the space, it would definitely put a stop to his actions. Its purpose was to maintain the balance and existence of this realm. If the lower realm ascended into the immortal realm, its existence would naturally have lost its purpose. Ma Duo Bao tossed a contemptuous look at it. His whole aura began to thicken madly, increasing little by little. His whole person was exuding a brilliant golden light as if he had become a dazzling golden god. Merely that aura would make any shattering void tear cultivator shiver. This had already exceeded 20 stars of shattering void tear. With the support of power of the nation, Ma Duo Bao's strength had reached a height that even the majority of shattering void tear cultivators could not imagine. 20 stars of strength, and battle prowess, possibly 22 stars, Ling Han said. He was the second emperor that had power of the nation, and the power of the nation he had attained was more or less about how much power of the nation Ma Duo Bao had, so he was the person qualified to speak the most. 20 stars of strength was the limit. Shattering void tear cultivators couldn't exceed that, and above that was the barrier to the immortal level. That was an impenetrable barrier. However, while strength could not be further increased, battle prowess could. Don't underestimate the mere increase of 2 stars of battle prowess. Improving further on the base of one's limit was much too difficult. Moreover, it was a tremendous pressure on Ma Duo Bao's physique as well, even if his physique was as tough as level 10 precious metal. The Eye of Heavenly Tao merely blinked once, and released the terrifying intimidation of the realm. This was a warning, telling Ma Duo Bao not to even dream of challenging the dignity of the realm. Ma Duo Bao laughed loudly, his hands once again brandishing the mountain and river axe, delivering a slash straight at the skies. Hong! This was an incredibly fearful strike. Not only was the empty space blasted open, it was even widening, and formed a gigantic hold as if it was about to swallow the whole world. Finally, the Eye of Heavenly Tao flew into a rage, and flipped out. Xiao, a ray of light shot out from the eyeball, shooting quickly at Ma Duo Bao. Even you dare to stop me? Ma Duo Bao tossed a disdainful expression at it in a domineering fashion. He brandished the mountain and river axe, and slashed at the Eye of Heavenly Tao. If he wanted to split open the skies, he would have to first defeat the Eye of Heavenly Tao. This was the embodiment of the will of the realm. That ray of light struck the mountain and river axe, and an astonishing light exploded. Everyone could not help but close their eyes in fear that their eyes would be burnt to blindness. Ling Han activated the Eye of Truth, and instantly saw everything clearly. He was not just here to attend the ceremony, but bore another heavy responsibility. If Ma Duo Bao failed, he would have to take over this heavy task. Thus, he now had to observe how powerful the Eye of Heavenly Tao was and what kind of deadly moves it possessed. Even if it had been wounded twice by the great powerhouses of the Rock Palace and fled, that was because those two existences were much too powerful, and not because the Eye of Heavenly Tao was weak. Hong, hong, hong. A great battle exploded in the skies. Floods of light surged out, every clash as loud as thunder, but aside from Ling Han and Helian Tianyun, no other person could clearly see the battle situation. This fatty can win, Helian Tianyun said with a nod. The Eye of Heavenly Tao's battle prowess has just surpassed the limit, and reached 21 stars, yet the damn fatty has reached 22 stars. If there are no accidents, the fatty is definitely going to win. Ling Han nodded, agreeing with Helian Tianyun's opinion. Under power of the nation, he also had about 18 stars of battle prowess, so his judgment would naturally not be far off. The Eye of Heavenly Tao's attacks were upright and frank, and that was stimulating the powers of the realm to slash out at Ma Duo Bao. Powers of the realm, also known as power of regulation, possessed incredibly frightening destructive abilities. Even a physique as tough as level 10 precious metal was useless to resist it. It would be sliced apart just like any other. Thus, even Ma Duo Bao dared not allow the Eye of Heavenly Tao to hit him. His figure flitted about in the air whilst he continued to brandish the axe in counterattacks. Not only was he a damn fatty, he was also an incredibly agile damn fatty. He was so fast he appeared like a blur to the eye. A manifestation of the realm has no spirit nor consciousness. Are you qualified to stop me? Ma Duo Bao smiled proudly. Hong, his aura suddenly spiked dramatically again, endless killing intent exuding from all over his body before it solidified. Shio, shio, shio. This killing intent, like swords, shot quickly towards the eye of Heavenly Tao, and stabbed all over the eyeball. The first killing formation of the world finally expressed his might. Technically, Ma Duo Bao and the Eye of Heavenly Tao were actually from the same source, because the killing formation on his body was naturally etched by the realm onto him, and he was the strongest formation of this realm. With a long shout, Ma Duo Bao waved the axe in an attack, wanting to slash apart the Eye of Heavenly Tao in a single go. Chapter 861, Slashing the Eye of Heavenly Tao. Chapter 861, Slashing the Eye of Heavenly Tao. From the point of view of the Eye of Heavenly Tao, it had to be feeling very gloomy. It was a grand, majestic embodiment of the will of the realm, yet it actually was wounded repetitively. This was something that had never happened before. However, it had no sentience, and would not really become angry. It merely stimulated powers of the realm and launched a counterattack against Ma Duo Bao. Too weak. Ma Duo Bao smirked coldly. He brandished the mountain and river axe in large movements, striking the Eye of Heavenly Tao so that it retreated little by little. Actually, it was not the Eye of Heavenly Tao that was weak, but Ma Duo Bao, who was expressing his full potential, that was too strong, so strong that even the Eye of Heavenly Tao was no match for him. The Eye of Heavenly Tao was endlessly sent flying from the axe strikes. This allowed the people below to see clearly, and they all began cheering loudly to encourage Ma Duo Bao. The Emperor is mighty. The Emperor is imperious. The Emperor is invincible. In the lower realm, every person was filled with reverence towards the Eye of Heavenly Tao. This was the embodiment of the will of the realm, and no one dared to disrespect it. If one did too many bloody atrocities that offended heaven and earth, they could possibly draw out the Eye of Heavenly Tao to kill them, and that meant definite death. But now, the Eye of Heavenly Tao was being madly oppressed, and this naturally made everyone feel extremely invigorated, as if they were slaves that had finally managed to turn the tables on their master. They were all excited, their scalps numb. They shouted out hoarsely as if they themselves were that fatty that was showing off his godly might. Ma Duo Bao's attacks became more and more intense. Every slash from the axe would cause the Eye of Heavenly Tao to retreat a few dozen miles. He very obviously had the upper hand. However, the Eye of Heavenly Tao had no choice but to fight. Previously, those two ultimate elites from the Rock Palace had already thrashed it severely, but they had not intended to split open the skies, nor had they threatened the existence of the lower realm. That was not the case now. Ma Duo Bao's actions would determine whether it could continue to exist or otherwise. Hence, there was no retreat for the Eye of Heavenly Tao, its only option was to fight, and that was the meaning of its existence. If it did not fight, its fate was death. The Eye of Heavenly Tao glowed. This was the resistance of the whole realm. It enlarged endlessly, and multiple golden chains shot out from the eyeball. These were solidified by the powers of the realm, and represented the regulations of the realm. In theory, the whole realm was definitely stronger than any individual being. The power you obtained had originated from this realm, so how was it possible that you would be able to surpass your origins? 20 stars of strength was the limit. However, since splitting open the skies was possible, naturally, it would not be a completely hopeless endeavor. The battle prowess limit of the Eye of Heavenly Tao was only 22 stars as well, and the one splitting open the skies could draw power from power of the nation, and thus possessed a wider capacity for advancement. As the saying went, never give up hope. However, how terrifying would battle prowess of 22 stars be? Peng, peng, peng. The chains formed by powers of the realm whipped out continuously, and seemed to have woven a net that could strangle to death any living being that dared to resist in the skies. Ma Duo Bao was indeed very strong, but 22 stars of battle prowess was already his limit. Although he could still fight back now, there was a limit to human ability. The moment his power was exhausted, the Eye of Heavenly Tao would turn the tables on him and kill him instead. "Your Majesty," the 7 kings mumbled softly, their expressions incredibly anxious. Innumerable years ago, they, too, had traveled to this point. Ma Duo Bao still had not managed to break through his limits, and they were forced to give up the venture of splitting open the skies. Furthermore, to hide from the punishment from the Eye of Heavenly Tao, they had to seal themselves away with the time liquid. Could it be that they would have a repeat of their disastrous failure, and once again be left with grievances? Hihi, so much time has already passed, and you think that I have not improved in the slightest? With a loud shout, Ma Duo Bao's body shook, and his whole body actually stretched out. Initially, he wasn't short, about the height of any ordinary person. However, his girth was much too astonishing, which made him appear short. Now, his girth was quickly shrinking, whereas his body was becoming taller. In a short while, he had reached 10 meters tall, his body tall and slender. What was fat about him anymore? He was a handsome, gigantic, and amazing man. Boss. The 7 kings' cheeks streamed with tears. This was their king, so handsome that even they would be envious. Ma Duo Bao had not just become fat. With a loud yell, even more power of the nation surged into his body, stimulating his battle prowess to increase further. Hong. His body seemed like it would explode at any moment. At first, he was only tall and slender, but now, he was shockingly sturdy. Every bit of muscle was trembling as if it were gushing out with enough power that could destroy the heavens and exterminate the earth. 23 stars of battle prowess. Realization suddenly came to Ling Han, and he said, "This fatty has cultivated an unusual technique, causing him to look shockingly fat at usual times. Yet, in truth, it is a unique body cultivation method that would greatly increase the tolerance of his body. For a genius like Ma Duo Bao, after failing once to split open the skies, how could it be that he would repeat his previous actions once more? In the shattering void tier, the difference of a star meant the difference between heaven and earth. The Eye of Heavenly Tao had reached the limit of its battle prowess, and, most likely, so had Ma Duo Bao. Looking at how veins were popping out on his forehead, he could not possibly maintain this kind of battle prowess for too long. However, Ma Duo Bao had the oppressive advantage of a star of battle prowess, and that was much too crucial. Hong, hong, hong. With him brandishing the mountain and river axe in successive attacks, the Eye of Heavenly Tao was continuously sent flying. That place that had been torn open twice successively suddenly split open, and dripped blood. Long live! Beneath them, cheers surged like an ocean wave. Even Ling Han could feel his blood racing. Although the Eye of Heavenly Tao had been injured twice, that was the action of an immortal, but what about now? It had finally been wounded by the hand of a mortal. Battle prowess of 23 stars of shattering void tier could suppress even the Eye of Heavenly Tao. The Eye of Heavenly Tao was bleeding, and a rain of blood also began streaming down. This was the sorrow of the realm. "I, this day, shall massacre the skies and establish my nation." Ma Duo Bao laughed loudly, announcing his noble aspirations. The mountain and river axe exuded a brilliant light, delivering blows that gradually enlarged that wound on the Eye of Heavenly Tao. At first, even if the Eye of Heavenly Tao was no match for him, it would not have lost so easily, either. However, it had been wounded by unprecedented ultimate elites 2 times recently, so it had actually lost a great deal of its vitality. And now, it had encountered an opponent with battle prowess of 23 stars of shattering void tier, which finally became the straw that broke the camel's back. The Eye of Heavenly Tao retreated in defeat, little by little. The heavens were weeping blood, but there were also trumpet calls echoing in the world that would cause one's blood to race. This was the encouragement for a hero. Splitting open the skies was the grandest, most important act of a small world. "Eliminate!" Ma Duo Bao shouted loudly, and the mountain and river axe shot out its brightest strike. Hong. The Eye of Heavenly Tao was actually slashed apart, endless blood spraying out, pouring out from either half from the skies. As blood poured, it continued to burn. Before even reaching the ground, the blood was burnt to ash. Ma Duo Bao drew back the axe, his gaze fixed on the skies. Now that the stumbling block had been swept aside, He only needed to break through the realm barrier and tear open a large enough hole. He would then be able to bring this entire realm into the immortal realm. Open! He shouted loudly, raising the mountain and river axe high, and mercilessly struck at the skies. One strike followed another as battle prowess of 23 stars blasted out without any reservations. The world was torn apart, and it was no longer the darkness of the empty void before them, for a foggy, extremely vague sight was revealed. Through this hazy view, everyone could vaguely see a new world. Was that the immortal realm? Ma Duo Bao showed off even more of his godly might. The mountain and river axe struck madly, determined to slash through this haze. Open, open, it was really going to be split open. That world's view was becoming increasingly distinct. Ling Han could not help but feel excited, his hands gripped into fists, appearing to be very nervous. Shua. However, right at that moment, a sword flash actually slashed out from that piece of sky, and struck Ma Duo Bao directly. Chapter 862 Attack from the Immortal Realm. Chapter 862 Attack from the Immortal Realm. This strike consisted in a sword ray that stretched for about 3,000 meters, just as if it was a godly drill. It had been too sudden. Who would have thought that an attack would actually come from the sky opposite from them? Furthermore, the might of this strike was much too frightening, and had definitely surpassed 20 stars of shattering void tier. That was a sword ray 3,000 meters long. It was as if it could destroy the heavens and raise the earth. Elites from the 5 sect. Ling Han suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with killing intent. Indeed, it was not that there was no action from the 5 sects, but rather that they were lying in ambush so that they could deliver a fatal blow at this moment. Ling Han had heard Yi Shuang say before that if one merely shattered the void and exited from here, the corresponding location in the immortal realm would be where the 5 sects were located. Thus, the 5 sects managed to lay out a killing formation in the corresponding space, and no shattering void tier elite from the lower realm would manage to make it out alive. However, in the case of splitting open the skies, if one succeeded, then the whole realm would enter into the immortal realm. This would draw out the regulations of the immortal realm, and send the lower realm to a random corner of the immortal realm. At least, this land would definitely be unable to block the power to split open the skies, and would definitely shatter apart immediately. But now, the skies had yet to be split open. The 5 sects of the immortal realm used this opening left by splitting open the skies to deliver a surprise attack. As long as they could kill Ma Duo Bao, then this venture to split open the skies would naturally fail. This was definitely an attack from an immortal, otherwise, it would definitely not have been able to surpass battle prowess of 20 stars of shattering void tier. Furthermore, the attack had come from the direction of the immortal realm, and even if it had shot out of the opening left behind by splitting open the skies, it would still be greatly weakened. If that had not been the case, who in the lower realm could withstand a strike delivered by an immortal? But even so, the power of this blow was still indescribably great. Would Ma Duo Bao be able to neutralize it? One had to know that he was in the process of splitting open the skies, and was already under great pressure in the first place. Ma Duo Bao humphed coldly. Wielding the mountain and river axe, he stepped up to meet the incoming attack. Pu. A muffled grunt, and the sword ray reached its target. Ma Duo Bao was instantly sent flying a few hundred meters away. With the friction caused by the high speed he was going at, even the surrounding air had ignited, forming a long strip of flames, looking like a dragon of fire. He had blocked it. But the problem was that the opening in the skies above them was also closing back up. Ma Duo Bao quickly brandished the axe, and delivered another blow at the skies. Shua, 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 with a few strikes, the skies opened up again, but it was right at this moment that a flash of sword ray swept past and slashed out at him again. There was nothing else that could be done. Ma Duo Bao could only brandish the axe to meet the attack, but in this way, all his previous effort was wasted again, and the opening in the skies was once again closing back up. This move of the 5 sects was really very cruel. Would he block it or not? If he blocked the blow, he would not be able to split open the skies. If he did not, then he would be severely injured, or even directly killed, and ultimately still not be able to open the skies. Ling Han frowned deeply. This was not good. The 5 sects were actually so shameless, making use of their status as immortals to interfere. Furthermore, they were far off in the immortal realm, and there was a great formation separating them from here, so who would be able to barge through that great formation to impede them? If they had that kind of power, then wouldn't they be able to easily split open the skies with just one hand? This seemed to have become a problem with no solution. Ma Duo Bao was like a trapped animal, endlessly hacking away at the skies, and had to fight off the attacks from the immortal realm at the same time. But his current battle prowess had been forcibly elevated through a secret technique, and there was no way he could maintain it for long. Then, splitting open the skies would naturally end as a failed venture the time his battle prowess dropped. This was precisely what the 5 sects wanted. You would not be able to become an immortal if you could not enter into the immortal realm, and without becoming an immortal, your lifespan would only be 1,000 over years at the maximum. Eventually, you would have to die. Your Majesty. The 7 kings all flew up at the same time, wanting to lend a helping hand to their ruler. Step back. Ma Duo Bao shouted. Even though the 7 kings were only a few stars of battle prowess inferior to him, after increasing battle prowess on the basis of his limits, the difference of a single star was akin to the difference between heaven and earth, so how could they possibly overcome the shortage of 4 to 5 stars? If the 7 kings went to meet the attack from the immortal realm, they would not be able to block it at all. One blow and they would all die, and that would greatly disrupt Ma Duo Bao's concentration. His technique elevating his battle prowess would naturally be disturbed, and the result would be even worse. With this shout, the 7 kings abruptly stopped. They had been just anxious, but now, they immediately came back to their senses, and knew that if they helped, it would only lead to achieving the opposite of the result they wanted. Now, unless there was someone that could reach battle prowess of 20 stars of shattering void tier, no, even 20 stars would not be enough. They would at least have to reach 22 to 23 stars to be able to share some of Ma Duo Bao's burden. But in the whole lower realm, was there an ultimate elite like that? None, not even one. Ma Duo Bao could only fight alone or give up the idea of splitting open the skies. This was really a difficult decision to make. I said I would split open the skies, so the skies definitely have to be opened this day, Ma Duo Bao declared harshly. Hong, a dense white brilliance radiated from his entire body, and he actually ignored the attacks from the immortal realm completely, and merely focused on brandishing the axe with all his might to split open the skies. Pu, pu, pu. Sword ray slashed down on him non-stop. Blood spurted out, but Ma Duo Bao acted as if he felt nothing, and continued brandishing the axe. As long as he could hack open a large enough opening, the lower realm would be able to struggle free from the absorption of a small world, and with the collision of a whole mainland, that so-called land would also be destroyed at contact. Under the regulations of the immortal realm, the lower realm would appear somewhere, and become a new immortal land. The chances that that place would still be in the territory of the 5 sects were lower than 1 in 10 quadrillion. The immortal realm was too big. This was their only hope. Your Majesty, the 7 kings called out, their voices trembling. Ma Duo Bao was already using the last of his strength. This was his trump card as the first killing formation of the world, using the life force of the killing formation to protect himself and forcibly maintain his current abilities. This was, to succeed or die trying. Beneath them, there was complete silence. Everyone was stunned by Ma Duo Bao's actions, and a powerful solemn and tragic feeling rose up in them. In the eyes of the immortal realm, they were merely tiny ants, and their only value was to be harvested and refined into an alchemical pill. But now, Ma Duo Bao was using his actions to tell all the people in the world, and the immortal realm, that they were not ants. They, too, would voice out their resistance, and would punch with their fists to rebel. We were humans. Blast through this sky. Go, Your Majesty. Long live His Majesty. Succeed. After momentary peace, it was all yells that seemed capable of shattering mountains and causing tsunami. The wills of everyone became akin to a city, and it was as if their screams were about to tear open the skies itself. Ling Han, Feng Po Yun, Helian Tianyun, and the others all stood up. At this time, none of them could sit calmly. They all raised their heads and looked upwards at the skies to watch that solitary yet majestic figure stand against the heaven and earth and the immortals. Whether Ma Duo Bao succeeded or not, this figure would eternally be branded into everyone's hearts. Open! 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 Ma Duo Bao had gone berserk, and with the endless hacking from the mountain and river axe, the opening in the skies became larger and larger, and the whole mainland was also giving out thunderous noise as if it was about to uproot itself from the earth. Splitting open the skies, are we going to succeed? I can feel the land trembling as if it is soaring up towards the immortal realm. Your Majesty has succeeded, we have succeeded in splitting open the skies, we are about to ascend to the immortal realm. The spectators exclaimed, so excited they could feel their scalps become numb, they were even stuttering in their words. Ling Han used the eye of truth, and saw clearly that the skies were really about to be opened, only a very thin layer was left now. He could almost clearly see the lands of the immortal realm as well as that dense spiritual qi that was about to gush out. Sure, just at this moment, a flash of sword ray slashed into Ma Duo Bao's body. Everyone paid no attention to it, because Ma Duo Bao had already suffered countless blows previously and withstood them all, and believed that this time was no different. However, after this strike, the mountain and river axe that Ma Duo Bao had raised did not manage to chop downwards. They were only short of that one last strike. Chapter 863, Failure to Split Open the Skies. Chapter 863, Failure to Split Open the Skies. Your Majesty, the 7 kings exclaimed. Your Majesty, the nation's subjects beneath them exclaimed. Ling Han's brow suddenly wrinkled in a deep frown. He possessed the eye of truth, and saw the clearest that Ma Duo Bao's life force was quickly dissipating. Previously, he had already suffered countless sword strikes, yet Ma Duo Bao had forcibly used his body to bear them and his life force to refine them, but there was still a limit after all. Besides, just who was it on the other side? An immortal, a real immortal. Even if the attacks that reached here were greatly weakened by the powers of the realm, they were still incredibly frightening. More importantly, the bigger the opening in the skies, the less the attacks that came from the immortal realm would be weakened by the powers of the realm, and the greater the impact they would have on Ma Duo Bao. This last strike. He had finally reached his limit. Veins popped on Ma Duo Bao's forehead. He gritted his teeth, and brandished the axe once more. Pu. But it was right at this moment that another flash of sword ray once again hit him. Sure, this strike had lost its accuracy, and slashed another spot. Ma Duo Bao's figure swayed a few times, and forced himself to raise the axe again, but the third flash of sword ray shot out, and struck his body. Peng, Ma Duo Bao was instantly sent flying more than 300 meters away, his whole body lying level in the air. After quite some time, he finally managed to move a finger. He gripped the mountain and river axe tightly, wanting to struggle back to his feet. Underneath them, everyone's hearts seemed to have been stuffed up with something. They felt unbearably suffocated, some were even tearing up. Your Majesty, that's enough. Next time, we'll split open the skies next time. Your Majesty, you will die. Ma Duo Bao slowly got back to his feet, but he had not even raised the axe when another sword flash struck and sent him flying once more. This elite from the immortal realm seemed to be doing so on purpose, deliberately attacking only when Ma Duo Bao got back up. This was a warning to Ma Duo Bao and the whole world. This was the result of opposing the immortal realm. It was also a provocation. I wanted to destroy your hope, but what could you do about it? Your destiny was to be refined into the realm pill, and no matter how you resisted, it would be useless. Ling Han's brow was already wrinkled in a deep-seated frown. He swore internally that he would definitely raise the 5 sects to the ground after he entered the immortal realm. As for those that should pay the price, not one of them would be spared. He had never wanted to kill someone so much before. Furthermore, he wanted to start a massacre, and his killing intent was boiling. Small tower, is there a way out? Ling Han asked mentally. Damn it. Now, the Black Tower could not instill power into him, otherwise, his power would reach immortal level. Even if he would be expelled to the immortal realm, he still wanted to rescue Ma Duo Bao. In any case, with the Black Tower, the Great Tower should not be able to kill him. Small Tower shook its head lightly, and said, "If I were still in my peak condition, it would naturally be a piece of cake for me to penetrate the powers of the realm and kill that brat on the other end, but now, I can't." There was no way at all. So, he could only watch Ma Duo Bao die helplessly. In the skies afar, at that spot where the barrier between the two realms had been broken, a figure appeared. It belonged to a middle-aged man, and he wielded a treasured sword in hand. Above his head, there were 3 suns and moons floating, and even at such a distance, and with the existence of the realm barrier, one could still feel his powerful aura. It was as if he only needed a single glance to eliminate all the living beings in this entire realm. An ultimate elite of the sun-moon tier. Ling Han immediately affirmed internally. This naturally was something Yi Shuang had told him. Moons and suns floating above one's head were the sign of the sun-moon tier, though they naturally could be concealed as well. However, that man obviously disdained from doing so. It was only if such a great elite moved that the attacks would be able to penetrate through the two realms and still possess some might. If it was mountain river tier, the attacks would have long been ground out by the powers of the realm. There was a hint of condescension on the face of this middle-aged man. It was a kind of disdain he felt towards lower life forms. He looked arrogantly over all the living beings as if he was looking at a group of ants, and not living beings on the same level as he. Ma Duo Bao got back up again, but this time, he did not attempt to split open the skies again. Instead, he stood proudly in the air like a statue. But, all the elites knew that Ma Duo Bao had already sustained heavy injuries that he could not recover from. Those had been inflicted by an elite of the immortal realm, and he would very quickly die. "Ho ho, it is now my turn to pick up the pieces." Amidst a bout of laughter, an extraordinarily imposing middle-aged man strode over from afar. One step, and he had traversed a few dozen miles. He was amazingly fast. Ao Jian. Ma Duo Bao was already spent force, and the flame of his life was about to be extinguished. Now that an ultimate elite that had close to 20 stars of shattering void tier of battle prowess had appeared, he would naturally be able to sweep him aside easily. The immortal realm had indeed not stood by silently and watched. Instead, they had set up a very simple trap. It was really very simple. An elite from the immortal realm would ambush Ma Duo Bao from the immortal realm. After inflicting a serious injury, they'd leave Ao Jian to pick up the pieces afterwards. The two of them would be enough to deal with the whole matter. "Who can stop me?" Ao Jian laughed loudly. He possessed battle prowess of 19 stars of shattering void tier, and was also a descendant of the dragon race, so the toughness of his physique could compare to level 10 precious metal. He was practically invincible in this realm. Now that Ma Duo Bao was about to die, who would be capable of stopping him? Everyone was gritting their teeth in hatred, but without enough power, what purpose could mere hatred serve? "Obey my command." Yet at this moment, Ma Duo Bao suddenly spoke. "From this moment on, the Purple Moon Empire will be incorporated into the Great Ling Empire. All the subjects and citizens of the Purple Moon Empire will be subjects and citizens of the Great Ling Empire." "Your Majesty," the 7 kings and all the officials exclaimed in grief. This was Ma Duo Bao leaving behind his last words. "Ling Han, I have left everything to you. You have to bear this responsibility." Ma Duo Bao's eyes were fixed on Ling Han. With a sudden wave of his hand, Shua, the mountain and river axe was thrown over to Ling Han. What he had thrown was not just an axe, but also a responsibility. Ling Han stretched out his hand. He caught hold of the mountain and river axe, and declared solemnly, "Don't worry, I will definitely succeed in splitting open the skies, and destroy the 5 sects and the Ao clan." This was his promise. Hong, a shadow of the Black Tower, appeared inside his body, and flew towards Ma Duo Bao. A shadow of a sword also flew out of Ma Duo Bao's body. The shadow of the Black Tower bit the shadow of the sword, and swallowed it completely. Suddenly, the totem of the sword above the Purple Moon Empire immediately disappeared, only to be replaced by the totem of the Black Tower. This was equivalent to a battle between two nations. The Purple Moon Empire had lost the war, and the Great Ling Empire had emerged victorious. In that instant, the 7 kings had lost the support of power of the nation, their battle prowess falling dramatically. On the other side, Ling Han, Feng Po Yun, and the others had obtained the support of power of the nation, and their battle prowess rose drastically. With its size, the Middle State could match the 4 regions combined, and even if the people's wills weren't united yet, merely the power of the nation brought by the expansion of the territory was extremely powerful. Ma Duo Bao closed his eyes in peace, his sturdy figure immediately falling down from the skies. The opening that he had created in the skies was also quickly closing back up. He had not even yet reached the ground, and it had already closed up completely. Splitting open the skies had ended in failure. Ma Duo Bao had died. The 7 kings quickly shot out and caught Ma Duo Bao, all of their faces streaming with tears. All around them, everyone was barraged with feelings of grief, feeling an indescribably sense of being suffocated. You don't have to feel so much grief, because even more people will die here today. Ao Jian smirked coldly. He pointed at Ma Duo Bao's corpse, and declared, "Hand this man's body over. To dare to oppose the immortal realm, I will crush his bones and shatter his ashes to the wind. How dare you?" The 7 kings immediately flew into a rage. "Let me." Ling Han stood up. Without support from the power of the nation, how could the 7 kings match Ao Jian? Since he had caught the mountain and river axe, he had also received the great banner to stand against the 5 sects of the immortal realm. Chapter 864, Battling Ao Jian. Chapter 864, Battling Ao Jian. Ling Han faced Ao Jian directly. "Yi, aren't you the human that fled in defeat the last time?" Ao Jian obviously had a very good memory. If not, how could he possibly remember an ant? Ling Han was unmoved, and said, "You are not able to represent the immortal realm yet, so don't keep talking about the immortal realm, you are unqualified." Ao Jian immediately looked angered, and said, "I am unqualified. And you think you are? I did not keep going on and on about the immortal realm, you idiot." Ling Han said coldly, "I am in a terrible mood right now, and want to commit murder. You coincidentally match my killing target standard. Ha 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 ha." Ao Jian laughed loudly. "This is really the greatest joke I have ever heard, but after laughing, it only enrages me even further. Human, unless you have an instant teleportation talisman, you will definitely die today." Ling Han stimulated the power of the nation, and his power soared madly. Now that the Middle State had become the territory of the Great Ling Empire, he was naturally able to use power of the nation there as well. Furthermore, it had increased by at least a third. "My citizens, today, I will kill a man of the immortal realm to avenge Brother Ma, lend me your strength," Ling Han said. "You all only have to quietly desire that I defeat this enemy. The will of the people could be gathered by the totem." Now, the citizens of the Middle State had not yet approved of him, but through this simple action, he would be able to gather a great amount of power of the nation. Suddenly, the power of the nation that he obtained increased to another level. Everyone in the world hoped that he could kill an immortal. Ling Han put the mountain and river axe away, brandished the Revere life sword, and said, "Today, I will use Brother Ma's sword to deliver you to hell." "How dare you?" Ao Jian roared furiously. His battle prowess was close to the peak of humanity, and added with his powerful physique, how could it be that he would not be able to defeat even a puny human? He summoned a silver spear, and immediately stabbed in Ling Han's direction. Ling Han raised his sword to parry. Ding! The silver spear was blocked. Ling Han wielded his sword with one hand, while the other formed the earth-overturning seal and pressed down on Ao Jian. His personal ability was limited, and even with the support of power of the nation, he could only reach the level of 12 stars, but the secret techniques he had grasped were really too powerful, and pushed his battle prowess all the way up to the high level of close to 20 stars. Ao Jian's battle prowess was only 19 stars as well, and was even slightly inferior to Ling Han's. Although he did not fall into disadvantage upon contact, he was absolutely not having the upper hand, either. What? Ao Jian's expression was filled with disbelief. How could his opponent possibly have such powerful strength? He was obviously at the level of 1 star of shattering void tier. He knew that Ling Han had the support of power of the nation, but why was he capable of bearing such tremendous power? He pondered slightly for a moment, and could not stop his expression from being overwhelmed by shock. If Ling Han's cultivation level had reached the 9th layer of Shattering Void tier, then wouldn't it be a piece of cake for his battle prowess to break through to 20 stars? Heavens, had this tiny world become completely ridiculous? Because the resources of a small world were scarce, ordinarily, 15 stars of battle prowess was the limit. For example, the 7 kings only had 18 to 19 stars of battle prowess at the most, even though they had obtained the support of power of the nation. At most, they would only be able to shatter the empty void and enter into the immortal realm, but would absolutely not be qualified to split open the skies. Otherwise, if the skies could be split open so easily, then wouldn't all the small worlds be entering into the immortal realm? But now, a monster with battle prowess of 23 stars of Shattering Void tier had just fallen, and now another character that would not be outdone had immediately appeared, and in the future might possibly even exceed his predecessor. Ma Duo Bao was the first killing formation of the world, but what gave Ling Han qualifications? There is nothing impossible, die. Ling Han used the 10,000 techniques return to 1. His current abilities were too strong, so he did not even need to accumulate much power to use this kind of great move. He need only wave his sword to execute it. His body of lightning had reached the level of major accomplishment, and his sword strike naturally brought along with it the might of lightning. Zizizi, blazing white electricity interwove, and increased the power of the strike further. To kill me, you are not yet qualified. Ao Jian sneered. He had to admit that the current Ling Han was indeed qualified to be a match for him, but if it was about killing him, that was absolutely impossible. The two battled fiercely. Peng, peng, peng. The silver spear and treasured sword clashed endlessly, causing brilliant waves of light to appear and ripple out in the skies. Kill, 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 kill this damn bastard. Helian Tianyun called out. As long as this descendant of the true dragon died, he would be able to easily conquer all the seas, and this whole realm would really be settled completely. They would then only need to focus on splitting open the skies. The other 18-eyed corpse king of the 1,000 corpse sect had been killed by Ma Duo Bao. Previously, they had wanted to lure Ma Duo Bao away from his territory, so how could they have not paid an appropriate price for it? Whom are you calling a bastard? Rabbit, protested one. A kid and a rabbit glared at each other, neither giving in. However, Ao Jian's ability was really very strong. He himself had the battle prowess of 19 stars. This was too terrifying. His every move exuded the might sufficient to collapse mountains and destroy seas, so it was extremely difficult to defeat him, what more to kill him. Although Ling Han used all his mystical powers, he only managed to maintain a stalemate. Yet Ao Jian felt even more displeased internally. Last time, this human had not even had the courage to fight him, yet he now was actually able to fight him to a tie. Furthermore, the former still possessed a very great potential to develop further, so how could Ao Jian possibly accept that? He definitely had to kill this human. Otherwise, if he was allowed to reach the 9th layer of the Shattering Void tier, who would be able to touch him in his nation's territory? Putting aside the question of killing him, even immortals that descended into the lower realm would be killed by him. Ao Jian burst out all his power, and used the secret techniques of the dragon race one after the other, determined to kill Ling Han here. But this was even more of a fantasy. What kind of physique did Ling Han have? On par with godly metal. It was said that there existed an unbreachable gulf between immortal level and Shattering Void tier, so no matter how awesome Ao Jian was, he could not possibly injure Ling Han. Otherwise, he would have been able to turn the regulations of the immortal realm upside down. All the citizens of the world, give me more power. Ling Han raised his palm skywards, and broadcasted the images of their battle to the sky above every city through the totem. Even if one was not in the city, and farther away, he would still be able to see clearly. Lend me a helping hand. He aroused the hearts of the people, particularly targeting the middle state. The hearts of the people of the 4 regions were already united, and had a strong sense of belonging to the Great Ling Empire, but Ma Duo Bao had just forcefully brought the middle state under his authority, so the level of belonging the people felt to his state naturally could not compare with the situation in the 4 regions yet. This was a shortcoming, but was also something that had much room for improvement. However, after saying these words, the power of the nation he obtained became slightly stronger, yet was still not enough to support him to advance into 20 stars of shattering void tier. But, Ao Jian immediately felt pressured. Precisely because the difference of a single star meant a world of difference, even if Ling Han had not yet achieved 20 stars of shattering void tier, he was still commanding the initiative, and there was a slight trend of Ao Jian becoming passive. Additionally, the more time passed, the more advantageous it would be to Ling Han. As the ruler of the Great Ling Empire, he would gain the acceptance of more and more people of the Middle State, which would in turn increase the power of the nation he could obtain. 9 colors Great Grief Spear sweeps seeming tracks. Ao Jian shouted loudly, endless light condensing at the tip of his spear. There was a true dragon spiraling around, suddenly exuding endless might. It surged out towards Ling Han. Ao Jian delivered his strongest attack. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.